can't be in the dark. Okay, is that dark? Night dark. Hi guys, how are you? Excuse my hair. It's been raining here and I was out all day in the rain, so my hair is like, I don't know what happened to my hair. It's warm rain, and then it was torrential rain. It went to misting rain. It went to a rain. You could just see a mist. I don't know. I had a jacket on just to, wasn't because it was cold, but it just kept my clothes dry. And my hair was just soaking wet, and now this is the end result. So, let's see now. And I'm going to pull up. We're going to start where we left off, okay? If you've been following, we're going to the... Where did I put my thing? Gotta find my... We're going through the actual trial transcript of Scott Peterson's trial. And we're in the opening statement with Distasso, just because if somebody's not familiar with the case or needs to be refreshed, this is the best place to start, because it's the whole story for the jury, which is not supposed to be familiar with the case, right? So that's where we are. Let me just pull this up. Scott Peterson, I've got it right here. I have it already downloaded, so let me just go to my downloads. And then, like I said, we may need some people, depending on how far we get. But hopefully this is a good time and I'm not tired and I'm on my second cup of coffee. So I think this is good. All right. And then we'll go through the pictures, too, that were shown in the regular size. I know that they're small now in what you're seeing. Okay. Now this just has to load up here for a second. Hope everybody's okay. Let me get the chat up on the screen. Oh dear. Oh dear. Hi Captain Lee Fan. Hi Texas Mopar. How are you? Hi Janae. What's up with this? Why does this take so long sometimes to load up? I don't know what's going on. TubeBuddy here. We don't need TubeBuddy. What's going on? We need Captain Lee. Turn on. We've installed your extensions. I guess. I don't know. Allow. Hold on. Let me pull this back and figure out what the heck's going on. Let me just go in and get it again. Hold on, let me okay, so let me just go right back to it. And I'm actually, what am I doing here? Were your kids off today? If you have, our kids were off, but it was just it was a rainy day, but it was very warm, like I said.
It was hot out today. My kids are off, and I was driving in it all night.
I was driving too, yeah. Let's see here. All right. Here we go, people versus Scott Lee Peterson. Let's go. Okay, now it's downloading again. All right. Go in and get the other versions out of here so that. But I'll, in the meantime, let me see if I go through the pictures. Let me see, go through some of the photos that we've already seen here. Where are our photos? Okay, people's exhibits. All right. So we'll look at these while we're waiting for that to download, okay? A through O here are going to be Let's see, we have, it's supposed to be interior pictures of the shed. So I guess they're looking, this isn't exactly like the shed, it looks like the house. And the cars parked close. Remember, he hit the door, as we heard, into her Land Rover. And here's those large umbrellas that we've heard about, okay, that he was supposed to be taking to where the boat was, to the warehouse. And this is the area where they had parties at kind of an outdoor bar. And the shed, and here's the shed door open, and the 3 umbrellas which they opened, I guess looking to see if there was any blood or something on there for DNA. And that's what we've got. Let's see, now we can go and see, get rid of this one, and we'll look at, okay, we'll look at these and then we'll go back to the transcript because it looks like it's all good now. There's their pool. And the hot tub. And the pool. And the side of the house, and this is some kind of a, I think it's one of those where you have a window with a casement windows. Some kind of, or maybe it's a, just look at that orange, just look at that. And that was the back. Another one of the sheds. And that's it for that. So let me pull up the transcript now. It should be all ready. Come on. Wondering what the deal is. Let me just make sure I don't have another one open somewhere. You know what? I think, do I? No. What is this? Oh, here it comes. Okay. Okay. So we were, let me make this larger. We've already gone through this. And we've gone through that. We've gone through that. I think we're somewhere over here. Yeah, I know I definitely didn't read that part. Didn't have a segment with Meringue. We went over that. And then what she's wearing. He tells Officer Evers that Virginia tells the next day. We were like, you're going to hear numerous people. Yeah, we went here. He then returned at 4:30. How do you click that bill right? There's the actual ticket. Does anybody remember exactly where we left off last night? Isn't it bad that I can't even remember? I think we went to Karen Service's house. Oh, we did take the morning recess. Okay, wait. Then we came back. That I know. And we saw the dog. Got his clothes in the washer. We talked about that. The mop bucket, I know we talked about that. The housekeeper, I know we went through that. Let's see. Now on to October, we went through that. To November, We were already, yes, we went to Amber Frye when he was going on dates with her. We did a lot last night. Huh. And the Deepwater Channel. And he bought the boat. No one in Lacey's family knew anything about the boat. Then when he went with the party, instead of going to the Christmas party with Lacey, he went with Amber. Yep, we went through that. And when he said, no, I don't want any children, and your child will be enough for me, and that will be okay, we went through that. Then we went through, okay, I think we're somewhere over here. Let me see, because I finally got Sharon to go out fishing with me. We did that. And then they talk about fishing. Let's see. They went to leave on a trip to Carmel with Scott Peterson's family. It's a trip that they frequently, I guess they took over a couple of years. We went through that. Going to the salon, the same scarf, we went through that. And the boat anchor. Let's see. Sharon Rocha, physically, later in her pregnancy. She's wearing the diamond watch she used to wear. I don't know, I'm trying to see here. Okay, I think we were over here somewhere. I'm going to start here. With that trip. Okay, the next day they leave for a trip. Scott and Lacey leave for a trip to Carmel with Scott Peterson's family. It's a trip that they frequently, I guess they took over a couple of years, kind of around Christmas time. Here is Lacey Peterson and the defendant on the beach in Carmel. Pay attention to what she's wearing. She's wearing these brown, khaki maternity pants, which are the same kind of pants that she bought on August 30th from Motherhood Maternity, and the same kind of pants she's found in when her body is recovered on April 14th. And also pay attention to this particular black jacket. The jacket you're going to hear is the one she frequently wore in the wintertime. You can see she's obviously pregnant, and it's the same. It will be the same description that Amy Rocha will tell you that she was wearing on December 23rd when Lacey and the defendant came to her salon. We'll talk about that in a minute. Pay attention to this kind of cashmere colored scarf. It's the same one that you saw that was hung up on the hook when Lacey Peterson's purse was found, and it's the same description that Amy Rocha will tell you that Lacey was wearing when she came to her salon on December 23rd. Again, this is the day, another picture from that trip here, right over here. She is in another pair of those khaki maternity pants. She's got the same scarf on. Lacey and the defendant. Let me, before we leave, that trip took place, you can see, on December 16th through the 18th. Now I want to go to the call button on this particular calendar, and you will see that they were there. You can see their relationship is progressing by phone records between Amber Frye and Scott Peterson. You can see that he called her on the 2nd. This is the time, the 2nd through the 4th, that they spent together. This is the 11th when they were together, the 14th when they were at the Christmas party. The 9th, there were a number of, the 9th, there were a number of calls. This is the day he bought the boat, as well as when he actually went down and told her in person about the story of losing his wife. And you can see that while they were on the trip together, Lacey and Scott Peterson went down in Carmel with the defendant's family, that he was on the phone numerous times talking to Amber Frye. Look how happy and smiling he is there. Go to the 20th. On the 20th, Scott Peterson, based on that receipt that Detective Broccini saw on the 24th, Scott Peterson bought a 2-day fishing license, a fishing rod and 2 fishing lures. Here's the fishing license. It was a 2-day sport fishing license. He bought it so late in the year that the store actually sold him one for 2003. You can see it is for 2 days. The date it was issued was December 23rd. It was actually bought on the 20th. You'll see the receipt for that. But the dates was valid were December 23rd and 24th. This is just the back. You can see the OK stamps on it. click the next through. He bought this particular fishing pole, and I told you about that. He bought that fishing pole. Here's the second half part in the boat. Then this is again the 24th. He bought this particular fishing pole on the 24th. He bought this striper bucktail lure, and you can see that it's still in the original package that it was when it was bought. And this is the one that Detective Broccini found in Scott. Hold on. I'm going to wait for this to advance. Found in Scott Peterson's truck on the 24th, unopened. Next one, and he bought this particular lure, too, from Big Five on the 20th. And you can see it's also unopened in the package and hasn't been used. He also told Detective Grogan later, sometime later, when Detective Grogan was asking him some things that he had seen, he said he made one cement anchor around this time. He said he made a cement anchor in his shop for the boat. He said he made a cement anchor in his shop for the boat. He said the reason he did that was Bruce Peterson kept the anchor. He said he took a 90-pound bag of cement and made this small little anchor. He said that's the only anchor that he made. You can see it's small and round. And you're going to hear from detectives and even be able to see, because you're going to see the boat, the inside of the boat, when they, on the 24th, from then on, there was no rope or no chain or no nothing in the boat that can be used to attach to that anchor, to actually use that anchor as a boat anchor. You're also going to hear from the professional fishermen that I told you about, that anchor, this particular small anchor right here, was not sufficient to hold that boat in an anchored condition in the conditions of the San Francisco Bay. This is also, you don't need to click on Renee, but one of Lacey's friends spoke to her on the 20th, Renee Tomlinson. The last time that her friend Renee talked to her, and Lacey complained about being tired and uncomfortable and just having the normal effects of a late-term pregnancy. I forgot to tell you that December 15th, the dinner that Lacey Peterson had with Ron Gransky and Sharon Rocha, was the last time that Sharon Rocha ever saw her daughter, ever physically saw her. She spoke to her on the phone after that, and actually last spoke to her on the 23rd, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this was the last time that she ever physically saw Lacey Peterson. You can see in this picture, Lacey's wearing, this is late in her pregnancy, sometime in December, she's wearing that diamond watch that she used to wear. And also the other ring, because her ring was in the shop, her diamond ring. She's wearing a gold band on her finger there. You're going to see in some pictures in a minute that the gold band was also recovered in the house. All the rings she used to wear on her fingers were recovered in the house. The 23rd is the last day that anyone other than Scott Peterson saw Lacey Peterson alive, and it's the morning started like this. At about 8:30 in the morning, the housekeeper, and you're going to hear her as a witness very soon, sometime this week, because she's going to be the first witness. And she's going to tell you that she was hired by the Petersons to clean their home 3 or 4, actually now I think about it, I think it was about 3 months before. Hold on, I'm just going to put that. I just have to change something. Okay. 3 months before. I think she came every couple weeks. This was her 4th time to come clean the house. She got there at 8:30 in the morning. And she got there at 8:30 in the morning. She was there from 8:30 to 2:30. She did a complete cleaning of the house. She mopped the floors. She cleaned everything. She said that during that time, Lacey was out, in and out, a couple of times. She went and bought some groceries. She went and had some hair treatment done at the salon. But she said most of the time that she was tired, and she spent most of the day while Margarita Nava was there with her feet up on a table, just kind of kicking back and watching TV. No, I'm sorry. Next slide. At 11:35, you'll see the receipt that Lacey went to Trader Joe's and bought some grocery items. She brought them home and was carrying them in. Whoops, I went too fast. And Margarita Nava, the housekeeper, helped her carry them in. At 12 o'clock, we know she went to Sweet Serenity Day Spa. And while she was there, she got a hair treatment by a woman by the name of Michelle Bauer. There was another woman there, Tina Ricewig, and they both will tell you that Lacey was tired and just, Your typical woman that's 8 months pregnant and kind of feeling the effects. And they're both going to describe that to you. At 2:35, she had her last appointment with her OBGYN. Her pregnancy, other than the fact that she was getting tired and this kind of thing. The pregnancy, though, was fine. The baby was doing well. The baby's heartbeat was strong. There were no problems with the baby, and Lacey's health was fine. At 5:45, Lacey and Scott Peterson, the defendant, visit Amy Rocha's hair salon. This is the last time that anyone other than the defendant saw Lacey Peterson alive. They went there. You're going to hear that Amy Rocha is a hairstylist. They went there so the defendant could get his hair cut. They go in. Lacey's tired. She spent most of her time sitting on this couch where I think the hair dryers are in this salon. Just sitting on the couch, just kind of hanging out, talking while Amy, her sister, cut the defendant's hair. While they were there, she was wearing that black coat that we saw before, the cream-colored scarf, and a pair of khaki maternity pants that you'll see in a minute. That's what Amy has always said. That's what the description that she's given that she was wearing. And now you're going to hear that this particular shop has video surveillance. That fact was not known to the Modesto Police Department until January 17th. On January 17th, when they found that out and they went back to check or asked the manager if they could retrieve a copy of the tape just so they could get a last picture of Lacey Peterson there in the shop, they found out that the tape had already been taped over. Because at the time, the salon reused the tapes every week. And so once a week went by from the 24th to the 31st, that tape was reused, and all of those images were lost. You're also going to hear that based on this case, the shop has increased the time of using their tapes for a month. At the time, it was only a week, so there's no videotape available. But Amy Rocha remembers that what she was wearing and has always given that description of what Lacey was wearing that day. You're going to hear that her body was recovered on April 14th wearing khaki-colored pants. Go ahead. This is a picture of just the pants after they were removed from Lacey on April 14th. You'll see these pictures. It's very hard to determine what you're looking at, but in the area over here, it's the zipper portion of the pants. This is the tag, so it wouldn't be the back. The pants are actually cut open and laid out flat on the table with the zipper here and the back of the pants here. Based on clearly you can see the tag, clearly motherhood. Based on this tag information, the company was able to give us an exact copy of the pants and what they look like. They sent us one, and you'll see those. Let's see. I know those khaki maternity pants, you need to see them. She was also found with a line of duct tape running up her body, and we're going to talk about that later, but not now. This is what the pants look like. The Scott Peterson, while he was there, he told Amy Rocha that he could pick up a gift basket for her from a place called Vela Farms in Modesto the next day on the 24th. And the reason they have that is on the 25th, they were having a brunch at Lacey's house. So they had ordered this gift basket from this kind of roadside stand to give to, I think, their grandfather, and it wasn't ready on the 23rd. It had to be picked up on the 24th, no later than, I think, 3 o'clock. And it's this roadside stand. I'm trying to make this simple, but it's a little complicated. This roadside stand is actually out near the Del Rio Country Club, where the defendant said he was going to be golfing the next day. And he told Amy Rocha, he said, you know, I can pick that up for you because I'm going to be out there golfing tomorrow. And she said, okay, no problem. You're going to hear later the next day she received a call from the fruit stand, and I think around 3:45 to 4 o'clock, saying nobody's come and picked this thing up yet, and you need to get out and get it, or else we're going to close down and no one's going to be here. So she actually had to run out there herself and get it. At 8:30 p.m., Sharon Rocha last spoke to Lacey on the phone. It was a very short conversation, only about 2 minutes long, and what actually happened, and Sharon will tell you, is that she was on the phone with somebody else. Lacey clicked in, kind of call waiting, and all she was doing was confirming that she would be coming over the next day for Christmas Eve dinner. She said, you know, Mom, oh yeah, You know, Scott and I will be coming over, and that's all. I just wanted to make sure I touch base with you before tomorrow. And because of the fact that she was on call waiting, she, clicked out of that. And that was the last time that Sharon Rocha ever spoke to her daughter. Sharon will tell you that she sounded tired, but she didn't talk about any problems that were going on or anything like that. That was about 8:30 p.m. Sometime after this date, Amber Frye doesn't remember for sure, but Scott Peterson called her from a 916 number. That's a Sacramento area code. And he told her that it was sometime around the 23rd. It was in the morning, and he told her that he was in the airport in Sacramento and that he was waiting to board a flight to fly to Kennebunkport, Maine, like he told her back on the 9th. And this is when he told her he would be leaving. And he called her. She actually hung up, and for some reason, she recalled the number and called the Sacramento airport and said, "Hey, I'm looking for this number. Do you know where it's at?" And it was at I think it came back to a payphone or something at the Sacramento airport. But that was the last she heard on the 23rd from him. We talked about the 24th. On the 26th, a couple things are going on. The Modesto police serve search warrants on 523 Covina, the Petersons' home, and on 1027 North Emerald, the Petersons' shop. And they found a couple of things. This is a diagram of the shop. This is the big bay door that I talked about. This is that small office there. This is that small office, and this is the door you go through to get to the bay area, the bay portion of the shop, I should say. Here's the other side of the office with the window that looks out, and this is the picture of them serving the search warrant that you've seen. This is an open area in front of the boat. This is where Detective Bercini will tell you that Scott Peterson hopped over the front of the little trailer, went back, retrieved the notebook off of his boat. This is just showing the shop. And they found a couple of things I want to talk to you about. At the house, they found the defendants, at the shop, of course, the boat we've seen. Also at the house, they found the canvas boat cover. And this is where the Modesto Police Department first actually hung it up in the back of the fence. This is the boat cover on the fence here. At the time that they were doing the searches, and it was found actually in the shed, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute, but it was so soaked in gasoline, it was a very heavy smell, so they actually hung it up on the back of the fence to air it out. It was found in this little shed on the side of the defendant's home, underneath this gas blower that was leaking gas all over it. You're going to hear from the experts. You're going to hear from some dog tracking evidence and some experts in this case, but you're going to hear that these experts say that gasoline is a solvent, and gasoline will do a couple of things. It will degrade human biological material, and it will also degrade human scent and smell. And when they found that shed, like I said, it was in this thing covered in gasoline. They also found those pliers that I showed you earlier. And this is a picture showing the front of the boat. It's a little different shot than what Detective Bercini originally took. This is on the 26th, and you can see that those pliers in the same spot underneath the third bench seat that they were before. This is almost an identical picture that Detective Bercini took, but it was taken by the CSO, Community Service Officer, on December 26th. You can see all the items are still basically in the same place. And again, the pliers are there. Next picture. This picture, you can't see it from back where you are too well, but let me explain to you what it is. There's a hair. You can see it along the edge of the placard. You can see that they're holding up the pliers that they found, and there's a hair coming off there. You can just barely, it actually looks like a crack in the plastic. It's got some kind of plastic or some kind of material on the end, and it's intertwined in the jaws of the pliers. And what you're going to hear about that hair is that Detective Hendy found these pliers, pulled it out, and he noticed that there was a long brown hair that was attached to it, and it was wrapped in the jaws of the pliers. And he took the pliers, and he didn't want to lose the hair. He took a paper evidence bag. He put the pliers down in the middle of it. He didn't look to count it. He didn't do anything like that. He opened up the jaws of the pliers, and he shook it so the hair fell inside. He looked into it to see if the hair made it into there, and then he shut it and he sealed it up, and that's what he did. He didn't take it out. He didn't examine it. He didn't look at it under the microscope. He didn't do anything like that when he collected it. He just stuck it in there, and he opened up the pliers and he put it in there. And what you're going to hear from the experts is that the hair matches the microscopic characteristics of Lacey Peterson. You're also going to hear that it's crushed at some end. And there's actually 2 hair fragments that are in there. There's 2 hair fragments that were in the envelope, and they both match Lacey Peterson's microscopic characteristics. They both look like they had been crushed by a mechanical force, and they both matched her mitochondrial DNA, and you'll hear experts talk about what that means. But basically, what that means, and what the experts are going to tell you, is that the hair matches the hair of Lacey Peterson. And Garagos now says, objection on that because it was specifically ruled that that could not be said. And the judge says, well, I don't know what Judge Girolami said, but he said it now, and that's the offer of proof. Overruled. Go ahead. I don't know what Judge Girolami said, Mr. Garagos. DeStasso continues. They also found a trailer with some concrete rings on it, and here's what they found. This is the trailer that we've seen the end of it, where Scott Peterson jumped over it to get that binder. But they found that this trailer, which was exactly in this condition when they went there on the 26th, and they found what they're going to describe to you as these little cement ring areas on the edge of the trailer. There's one here, they said, there's going to tell you, there's one here, they're going to show you that there's like a voided area here, there's one underneath this particular picture here, and there's another one you can see down at the far end, and click back now to that cement real quick. Go back to the 20th, go to that. Scott Peterson said he only made 1 cement anchor on that particular day. He said he used a 90-pound bag of cement to make it. Go back to the trailer picture. When the officers went and searched the warehouse, they found 4 or 5 voided ring areas on the trailer, just like you saw them. Now go back to 202, and this is what they found. You're going to hear from an expert that the cement in all of these ring areas matches the cement of that particular anchor. They never found any evidence of a 90-pound bag of cement. They didn't find the remainder of it. They didn't find the 90-pound bag. They didn't find anything like that. They just found these cement rings on the trailer. They didn't find the 90-pound bag. Okay, let's see. Go past the fishing equipment, go to the jewelry. I told you about the fishing equipment. Here's the jewelry that was found in Lacey Peterson's room. You can see there's the diamond watch you've seen from the pictures. There's the sapphire ring, and there's the 2 diamond necklaces she used to wear, as well as from the pictures, the gold bands that she used to wear. I'm sorry, go to the maternity blouse. Amy Rocha said that when Lacey Peterson was last seen on December 23rd, she was wearing that black jacket, the cream-colored scarf, those khaki pants, and a maternity blouse that she describes as either being dark-colored maternity blouse that either had flowers or polka dots on it. That's how she described it. This blouse right here was found in a hamper, just the way you see it on December 27th. They served the search warrant on the 26th. It was actually in the evening. They actually searched the house on the 27th, and it was found in this particular fashion. The shirt was also bought with that group of maternity clothes that she bought back on August 30th. Finally, go ahead, the blue tarp. The blue tarp that Detective Broccini said he saw on the back of Scott Peterson's truck on December 24th was found in this particular shed in the backyard of the defendant's home. There it is. And it was covered. There was fertilizer product in there, and it was covered with fertilizer product, and you're going to hear from the experts that fertilizer product acts as a solvent or degrading material to human, biological material. The judge wants to take a noon recess now, ladies and gentlemen, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I don't think we're going to get to Mr. Garagos today at the rate we're going. So they come back from their afternoon, and Geragos has to say, thank you, Judge. The ruling by Judge Girolami, which the court asked, and I agreed to stipulate, was binding upon the court, was that all that the expert could refer to in rendering an opinion on the mitochondrial DNA was the one in 112, I believe. And I think I won the bet with the other, Mr. Harris, who thought it was one in 110. I went back and checked. Harris says, I didn't bother to check. DeStasso says, we are going to take this 1 in 112. Geragos said, that's on the Caucasian database of the FBI pool, and he specifically ruled you cannot say. The judge said that it matched. Geragos says, right, because it does. It is not a match. And so Mr. DeStasso in his opening was saying that he was referring both to the microscopic analysis, which I understand if I know what he's referring to is Rod Oswald's comparison, where he could not exclude it, and that was consistent with Lacey Peterson's hair, and with the mitochondrial DNA saying it was a match. It's clearly not a match. Number one, the judge ruled it's not a match and said that the most you could say is it's 1 of 112. I believe that should be corrected for the record. The judge says, yes, I think so. First of all, it's true that I asked Mr. Geragos and the district attorney if they were going to be bound by Judge Girolami's rulings. I was not aware of that ruling. Obviously, that's what he said, so I have no way of knowing, but I accept your representation. Geragos says, I'd be happy to supply you with the 9 volumes of scintillating testimony on mitochondrial DNA. Judge says, I've got them right over there. Geragos says, in any event, I'll ask you to clean that up. I can fix it, DeStasso says. The judge says, go back. DeStasso says, just go back and say how the experts are going to explain, that they're going to explain the statistics. You know, I mean, they don't. Geragos says, I think that the court, the judge says, wait. We have got 3 people. Geragos says, because I objected it was, and I was, you didn't know. The judge said, I didn't know. Geragos says, you wanted to slough me off. I think the court should say I have reconsidered Mr. Geragos's objection, and I'm going to ask Mr. DeStasso to clarify what I think was a misstatement. Okay, the judge says, D. Harris says, so we're really clear about the terms Mr. Geragos was using. The only thing that they could testify to is that not exactly accurate. They can explain that they're not allowed to say that it's a match. In fact, all of the experts say they would not call it a match. In fact, they could distinguish it from nuclear DNA, so I don't want to, once we get to their testimony, the judge says, I don't want to split hairs or put too fine a point on it. Correct, says D. Harris. Geragos says, but I think that the court is the one to introduce the subject because I objected and I don't want to look like I'm just being obstreperous. And judge says, I'll see that after discussion in chambers. I'll sustain Mr. Geragos's objection, and I'll ask the district attorney to clarify the issue as to the hair, and then you can do so. DeStasso says, fine, judge. The judge says, okay. And DeStasso, slow down. Try to slow down. DeStasso says, I'm trying to finish today. Judge says, I know you are, but I'm just saying, after she told you to slow down this morning, you were just as fast as anybody. I understand. That's an Italian trait, I think. We all talk too fast. Geragos says, I always thought it was with the hands. D. Harris says, because he can't talk with the hands. He has to go faster. The judge says, just try to keep that in mind. Are you going to take at least another 1 or 2 hours, you think? Then Mr. Geragos, whenever we get done with him, I understand it's going to take an hour and a half. Put your visual aids and stuff up. They'll have to tear down theirs. DeStasso says, we have to take down. The judge says, you've got to take down. They've got to put it up at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Geragos says, do it at 9:30 so they have time to get set up. big on the 9. Judge says, I want to get the jury in a mindset starting at 9. If it's 9:30, they can't find a place to park here. I was cautioned about that. There's no place to park if you get here at 9:30. Geragos said, they don't get to park in the lot? The judge says, I was told if the jury gets here after 9, comes filing in, they will have a very hard time finding a place to park, so let's go at 9. Don't want to inconvenience the jurors. DeStasso says, what time for a witness tomorrow? I'll have them here. Judge says, your 2 turned into 4s. Mr. Geragos, can you give us... I have no idea. The judge says, he has no idea, so my suggestion is don't bring that witness in the morning. Have her available in the afternoon, and if he gets done by 3, we can put her on and start the testimony. Okay, DeStasso says. The judge says, okay, all right, let's go. You want this sealed, guys? Geragos says, no, I don't care. DeStasso says, do we care? The judge says, no reason to. Now the judge is all right. Okay, so he's now saying everybody's there. And he says, after discussing it with counsel, I'm going to sustain Mr. Geragos' objection now. And I'm more well advised what the ruling was. I'm going to ask the district attorney to clear it up so that this will be more accurate in accordance with Judge Girolami's. Geragos says, thank you. DeStasso says, I'll do that. Can we dim the lights a little bit? Sure, the judge says. Now DeStasso says, I think I had said when I was talking about the I believe, I think I had said when I was regarding the hair that was found in the boat, I think I said it matched microscopically. You're going to hear, in that regard, the mitochondrial DNA, it's much more complicated than match or non-match. I use the word match to try to simplify and move things along, and that's really wasn't the appropriate term. I should have talked to you about in terms of the statistics that the experts used. I'm not going to do that with you right now. Suffice it to say, you're going to have experts come and talk to you about the statistics, what they mean. What they're going to tell you is the hair excludes Scott Peterson. It does not exclude Laci Peterson. And they're going to talk to you statistical analysis they do to whether that falls in the vein of whether it matches or not. That's what they're going to talk to you about. But moving on, one last picture I want to show you from the search warrant. That green bag that's in the picture you see now, I think I told you that Detective Bercini saw that green bag in the truck on the 24th. I'm not sure if the green bag was actually there, but the canvas jacket was, as well as the lures and everything else. So I want to make sure I don't misspeak at all during this opening statement. Moving on now to the 28th. John, go ahead, move forward. In the 28th, December 28th, a couple of things are going on. This case has come kind of out of the press, so they're starting to get a lot of press attention. There is a command center that's set up in the park by the Modesto Police Department. They are using coordinated volunteer searches in other parts of the country as well as in the park and canvass more neighborhoods, that kind of thing. There is a reward fund that's been established in order to find Laci Peterson for her safe return. It was $125,000, and on the 28th of December, it's raised $500,000. There is a large search that goes on in a place called Mapes Ranch in Stanislaus County that has like a cattle raising operation, but it's got like 1,000 acres or something, and they use dogs and horses and civilian volunteers that's going on. And while they're going on, the Modesto police have gone out and done some follow-up work at the Berkeley Marina, and they have gone out, like I showed you on the ticket before, on the 27th, and they've asked people if people have seen Scott Peterson there. And on the 24th, they got that receipt that you saw showing how many people had launched boats during that time. And they also, on December 28th, brought in a tracking dog to see if they could track Laci Peterson's scent anywhere there at the Berkeley Marina. How these tracking dogs work, you can go ahead and click on Trimble. This is the dog they used, a yellow lab. And she's a working dog that's been certified by the California Assistance Rescue Dogs. I think it's CARDA is what they call it. And he goes through a rigorous set of training in order to be trained for a couple of different things, one of which is to track humans as they are walking along, human scent. Or some dogs are trained in tracking cadaver scents. Other dogs are trained in avalanche rescues, any kind of rescue, such as these dogs can. Hold on, I'm going to get a drink. Okay. They go through a rigorous training process. They have been certified. They have to be certified, I think, every year. Trimble's a dog who's trained on to track human scent. I walk across the room here. I leave human scent. The experts are going to come talk to you about how that happens. It's actually kind of a scientific mystery of life, how we leave human scent and how dogs can track a human scent. What the experts are going to tell you, though, is what this particular dog can do. She's done some pretty amazing things. She can track. She's been known, in live operation where she's gone out to try to track people who have been missing, and also in training exercises, she's tracked trails up to 2 weeks old. So someone has walked along a trail 2 weeks, left a trail, 2 weeks have gone by, they brought the dog out, they gave the dog a scent article. What they do is they take an article, something that's closely associated with the person's scent, who they want to track in this case. They use glasses in this particular case. They used Lacey Peterson's sunglasses. They use an article that's closely associated with them. That's not a lot of other people are going to use. I'm holding my glasses up to you because not a lot of other people are going to put my prescription glasses on. Also, glasses is also good, they're going to tell you, because they hold a lot of human scent, because all humans have a lot of oil and stuff coming out of their nose. It collects in these little nose pads that you have on your glasses. And that's what they used in this particular case. They used Lacey Peterson's sunglasses. What they do is they sent the dog to the scent, and the dog is trained to follow that scent, if it can. If it can't, the dog stops and gives a no trail, circles around. Doesn't pick up on a trail. We're done. Comes back to the handler and sits down. The dog is also trained. They are going to talk to you about this, to track people as they leave in vehicles. The dog has successfully tracked people who have been placed in the trunk of a vehicle and the car was driven away. The experts are also going to come and tell you how human scent is left. They call it skin rafts, which I think is just, for lack of a better term, but what it is microscopic particles that just fall off of us as we walk. That's how we leave scent. And I'm walking through here, leaving my scent. If you brought a scent dog in after, he would be able to track along the edge here, scent. Human scent is collected in moist areas. That's how it works. So if I'm riding my bike down the road, the scent is not necessarily going to be collecting along the asphalt underneath me. It will go where the wind blows, and it will slowly degrade as time progresses. If it rains, that can even degrade it. If it's left out, the sunshine will degrade it. Like any other human biological material, scent, though, like I said, will collect along vegetation. As I'm riding my bike, if I'm in a car and I have my window open and my scent is blowing out, it can track a human scent like that. When somebody dies, they don't instantly turn into cadaver scent. That's not what happens when someone dies and time passes. Slowly, the body's decomposition process will start, and there is a certain scent character will change. That's what they're going to tell you. Some of these dogs, and this dog is trained to do that kind of thing too. If I track along a trail out in the mountains and I die, I have left a live human scent. But when I die, and as I slowly start to decompose, I'm starting to leave a cadaver scent. People can leave two different kinds of scent. If I'm out in the woods, and let's say I fall and break my arm, I've got a compound fracture, and my arm starts to get infected. It starts to rot. I'll start having a cadaver scent in my arm. I'm leaving a human scent because I'm still alive. That type of differentiation you're going to hear from experts, will not cause these dogs a problem. It's not like instantly if someone is dead, the dogs can't track them. That's not how it works. They took this particular dog, Trimble, out to the Berkeley Marina, and they ran the dog around the marina launch ramp. Actually, they took two dogs. They took Trimble and another dog, Deputy Ron Seitz' dog. I don't know that dog's name. Deputy Anderson is the dog handler who runs Trimble. They ran both dogs in the location of, actually put it back if you don't mind, the next picture, they ran both dogs in the location of the Berkeley Marina around the bathroom area and around this particular launch ramp area. Neither dog picked up Lacey Peterson's scent. Both dogs circled around, attempted to find Lacey Peterson's scent. Neither dog was successful. The dogs circled back to their handlers, no scent. At that point, Ron Seitz finished, put his dog away in his truck, and Deputy Anderson ran her dog on the other side of the Berkeley Marina over here. She ran her dog down to the parking lot. You can't see it, it's off, but in the parking lot here, you can see this line of vegetation that runs into the middle part of the picture. The dog instantly hit a scent and circled the one time around, instantly hit on Lacey Peterson's scent there at the Berkeley Marina. The dog ran down. The dog trailed down through this particular area, through this particular part of the asphalt and down the launch ramp there on the left side of the picture. The dog trailed Lacey Peterson's scent down to here, down to the area right here on the boat launch ramp. And basically, right where this picture was taken, right where we're standing on this particular boat launch ramp, the dog sat down and gave the end of trail signal. Dog picked up the trail, ran through the parking lot, down the boat launch ramp, end of trail. She tried to work the dog further down the launch ramp, and the dog had no hits. She tried to do it in other areas of this particular area. No hits. Only on this particular launch ramp right here. Let's go to the 30th. Go through this quickly. December 30th is when Amber Frye contacted the Modesto Police Department. That's when she heard from her friend that you have been dating this guy. What's going on? On that date, Detective John Bueller, went down to Fresno and took a statement from her, talked to her, providing her with recording equipment. The recording equipment you can buy it at Radio Shack. It's a small little recording device. It plugs into a cellular phone and it records any conversations that you take off that phone as long as it's plugged in. They gave that to her and they asked her to record all further conversations with Scott Peterson, and she agreed to do that. On the 31st, a community prayer vigil is held for Laci and Connor in Modesto. It was scheduled to start at 4:30 in the afternoon. This was a huge community event. There was probably 200 people there. Laci's and Peterson's entire family was there. They were up on the stage. The defendant, in the beginning of the vigil, wasn't anywhere to be found. He does eventually come up later. Scheduled to start at 4:30. It's been heavily publicized. Everybody knows it's going on. You can see during or while the vigil preparations are being made, the defendant makes a number of calls to his girlfriend, Amber Frye. At the time he makes these calls, you can see 11:35 calls were after 4:12. Service for his wife is supposed to start at 4:30. You heard, and during that time, he's on the phone with Amber Frye. He's telling her that he's in Europe. He tells her, that he's supposed to leave for Europe on the 28th. He tells her that he's in Brussels and he's getting ready to do some business. That's what's going on when this vigil is going on in Modesto. And like I said, Modesto Police Department has Amber record all future calls. Actually, that evidence, and click on that, played the last 5 minutes of that call. You are going to have... Here it is. You're going to have a lot of calls between these, some of which Amber Frye recorded, some of which were recorded later after the court authorized of the wiretap on the defendant's phones. But the particular call was recorded on December 31st, actually January 1st, 12:01. Seems like a New Year's Eve call. Happy New Year kind of thing. And you're going to hear the entire call. Since I don't have days to open this case for you, I'm going to only play the last 5 minutes of what you are hearing is Amber Frye's side of the conversation, as well as Scott Peterson. It's been recorded on that little device that you plug into the cellular phone. Go ahead and play it. Hold on a second. Okay, this is People's Exhibit 196G.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
I just stepped out of the room because it's so loud and crazy, and I thought, you're going to immediately be calling, and I was like, I don't want to be in the middle of that because I would not be able to hear you.
Oh, that's kind of sad that you're not jumping up and down with everyone.
Oh, it is insane. I didn't think Sean's party was going to be so insane. Because she's always going to be playing the concert with other people, and they're singing karaoke, and I was like, oh my god. So, how are you?
I'm tired, but I'm happy on you.
So tell me, what is the New Year's resolution?
Oh, I didn't think of one.
You didn't think of one? You had 9 hours to think of one.
Yeah.
Nothing, huh? Oh, there was Blues Miguel, or what is his name? I don't know. They're just some songs. I kept telling them they weren't good, so I haven't really looked at the karaoke category, but, so, well, Ayana's asleep. She's with Diana tonight. My mom had to work, so I was able to, I wasn't sure if I was even going to get a Sean's tonight because of her, because my phone was all working, so. So anyway,
What did you say?
what was that?
What did you say?
If I could, I would. I don't know who sings that. If I could, I would. Something with
Good.
huh?
Good.
Yes, but I had my hand over Sean's mouth the whole time because she did very bad. But I was thinking, gosh, I'll look at it and I'll see what I haven't looked at all the songs yet. So I was thinking I might, find Islands in the Stream or something from our first day. So you would not believe how much Ayana has talked this week. She's saying like sentences.
Wow.
What was that? I couldn't hear you. What? Yeah, she's saying like 4-word sentences. Like, Mama, I'm all done. She says Mama now, and she'll say, I am not done. And just, it's incredible the words she's saying.
That's great.
Didn't I tell you? I was like, by the time you come back from Paris, she'll be talking full sentences and potty trained and all that. Do you remember when I told you that?
Yeah, I told you it's a little one.
What was that?
Completely different little one.
Yes. So she's just amazing me. This whole week she's been so verbal and talking, and I'm just like amazed at her vocabulary.
Yeah. That's a deal. That's so exciting, huh?
It is. It's like every time I'm just like, I wish somebody was here to hear that. That's, aside from myself.
People clap at that. Okay.
Oh, it's just really, it is. So then somebody had asked about my birthday and what I was doing, and they didn't know. So you'll be back by then, right? So what do you think you want to do? What do you want to do on my birthday? Something what? Something good? Are we going to do the Napa Valley when you come back?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I've never done anything like that, so, or been, to a place to do that. I've been, to massages, of course, but that's an extent of being pampered. That would be fun. I'm looking forward to this days.
Do you have a resolution?
Yeah, I do, actually. Would you like to hear
You
it?
want to share it?
Yeah, I would like to share with you. My New Year's resolution is... And actually, I thought of one for you. Which one do you want me to share first?
You give me one first.
Yours first. My New Year's resolution for you would be to not travel so much and spend more time with me and Ayana. What do you think of that? Was that something on your mind or anywhere close?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely been so long, for a long time.
For a long time?
Well, it's a long, huh?
I know it hasn't been too long, but certainly.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think
It
of how...
gives me a week.
I don't even want to think of how long it's been, because it's already been too long. But my New Year's resolution
Please, yes, tell me.
is to just, first and foremost, is just, to build my business. And second would have to be just, maintaining, my health and, focusing on what I need to do. And just, just really, keep focusing on that. And, as well as with my church, God, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. I don't know, do you have time? Are you?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I was, this Sunday at church was just so awesome, Scott, that it was something I really needed, or for the sermon to talk about, because I was just, having a hard time with you and what we had talked about before you left to go to Paris. Do you remember that?
Trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the whole sermon was so much on that, and I made a request, to talk to the pastor about that I, just to talk about, freeing myself basically with this battle I have in my head from things, and and so, Sunday was really good for me, and really eased myself about a lot of things, and just to really put that out to God, and so it was good. It was a good Sunday for me. But I just miss you so much, and I was thinking, you've heard that expression how oh, what is it now? I just totally went blank about the expression about how the absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Right.
And, I've really been thinking about that, because that's been, people have said that so many times, and it's hard for me to understand that. And it's just amazing and incredible how, that's so true, because I miss you so much, and I just wish you were here, and, I could be with you.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm just waiting, anticipating the day that I get to, see you again.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I feel so obviously, that.
What was that?
Obviously, I feel the same. I felt that from the day I had to drive away and go on this trip.
And yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I keep feeling like I wish I would have, verbalized more to you before you had left about how I felt about you and everything, and that, bothers me. Because,
Shouldn't.
why? I mean, it
Well, I
shouldn't.
think it's understood.
It's understood.
Yeah, I don't think you have to say it about it. You should it just bother you.
Well, it bothers me because, I'm not going to see you for so long, and to have all these feelings bottled up is just so hard for me not to be able to express them, because phone calls, at the same time, I had said to you, at least if I don't get to see you, if I could talk to you every day, it would mean so much, because I can't see you. But at the same time, phone calls are impersonable to a point.
Right.
But yet are, an open door to communication, of course, but it's just, just the feelings that I have and the experiences that, we talk about and everything, just, it's so hard that I'm not going to see you for, what is it? I don't even know when you're coming back.
Yeah, well, it's less than a month now.
What was that?
Less than a month now.
Less than a month?
Yeah. It's better for me, at least.
It's better for you?
Well, it's, kind of less than we've gone through, many days without seeing each other, so we're knocking down the days.
Well, yeah, the days are getting, it's getting closer, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, I know you had said before you'll be back, by my birthday, so what do you anticipate plan for? Do you have anything in mind?
For your birthday?
Yeah.
No, I have to come up with something good.
You haven't came up with anything then?
I want to. No. Kicking around ideas.
What? Share them with me.
No, no. Because I think it'd be a surprise.
So what about that?
The big idea would be a surprise of some sort.
A surprise.
Yeah.
And so then, what about Valentine's around the corner?
True.
Is that going to be overwhelming for you? It is so close together.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, we got on.
Huh?
Yeah, that's fun, huh?
It's fun?
Yeah.
Yeah? And then 6 days later, Ayana? I haven't even thought about that. What should we do for Anna's birthday party?
Pretty fun playing with all the kids, huh?
Well, last year I had everybody come to my house. Do you think I should have everybody just come to my house again and just have a party?
Yeah, it's very cold, obviously, still.
No, it's not actually. It was very nice on her birthday last year. There was actually even a rainbow.
Really?
And I saw a rainbow the other day, too.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was all excited. So there's a rainbow. Ayana, look, there's a rainbow.
Rainbows and butterflies, huh?
Rainbows and butterflies. So, how would you feel about meeting Ayana's grandparents?
That'd be good.
No, not my parents. Not my parents.
Yeah.
Her father's grandparents.
Of course, yeah, either.
What was that?
Of course, I'd be interested to meet them.
So you'd be okay?
Anything weird about that or anything?
You'd be comfortable with being, there because they'll be at the party. They were there last year. They brought the cake and the piñata.
Yeah, no, I think so. I hope so.
You'd be okay?
I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't be.
Because I know the type of people that they are. They would be very, loving and open to you and, that they would be okay as well. So I just, I was worried about how you felt about that.
Yeah, I have to think that I would welcome it. I mean,
Good.
I obviously can't say that it has some weird subconscious feeling or something, but I'm not thinking about it right now. It doesn't seem strange to me or in the least, so that's good.
Well, that's good. Just like I said, because how they are, they're very open and loving, and so that's good. That's good to know. That means a lot to me. So New Year's resolutions, huh?
What's that? Oh, my New Year's resolution? Yeah, I had 9 hours to think of one on. Didn't happen.
You can't think of anything just on the top of your head?
Oh, I'm sure there's all kinds of things I want to do better for myself. But, don't know off the top of my head. I usually have a resolution every day, huh?
You know, I just came across, remember when I was telling you about school and how we had to write down 5 things about what we were grateful for?
Right.
I just found those. And I was reading them, and they just totally made me cry because I was thinking, they were just so, I mean, even to this day, things I'm thankful for. And for whatever reason, I was thinking there were some stupid things in there. I think, remember when I was, did I mention that before? When I talked to you about this? That there were stupid things in there probably that I added in?
Yeah, I think you did. That weren't.
But you know what? They weren't. They were all so good. And actually, it was right around this time. That's why she had us write them, because it was around the New Year's. And I found them. I was going through a box of papers, and I found it was rolled up and it was tied in a gold ribbon. And I found it and I pulled it out and I reread them. And I was just crying reading them because the things that I had been thankful for.
Yeah. You knew.
Huh?
I knew you knew that there would not be stupid things in there. Simply because it's you making that list.
Because it was me making the list.
And it's how thoughtful you are. The smallest things.
It
You
was.
never waste the opportunity like that. Do you want to tell Preston over?
What was that?
Do you want to talk to me about that?
Oh, I don't have them in front of me, and it'd be hard to rephrase them. But
We can talk about this sometime.
so did you have a chance to write me?
I had a postcard.
What was that?
A postcard, yes.
Oh, you did?
And I started on a letter.
That would be so wonderful.
And I'm finding it hard.
Why?
So many possible topics.
Well, you just narrow it down to one and write about it, and whatever comes to mind. I mean,
I know
anyway,
it's
you
just
write.
hard to focus.
Scott,
Yeah.
why do you find it so hard to talk to me about these things? You say, you know, when I was talked to you on Saturday, you were saying that there's so many things you thought about us, but you haven't shared them with me. Why can't you share them to me on the phone?
I don't think there's anything stopping me from sharing them with you on the phone. I don't know. There's, just thoughts about, mostly future. I don't know. This is a guy thing, I guess, or maybe, I don't know, but
What was that?
I don't know. I mean, just possibilities in the future where we want to go and who we want to be together. And
So what do you want to be together with me?
well, I mean, obviously, my thoughts that I think would be wonderful together.
I know, but you haven't elaborated on that. That doesn't really say
Well,
everything that I need to hear.
no, I was hoping that non-verbally, but it's difficult on the phone, obviously, that she would simply know how I felt about you.
I can't assume anything in life, Scott, and I said I can't assume anything in my life. I mean, I'm very, I need to hear things as well as, see and hearing is such a great, thing for me. I mean, I need to hear that. I'm the type of person I need to hear, and so.
In my mind, we could be wonderful together. I could care for you in every way.
And
For the rest of our lives, I think we'd care for each other and we could fulfill each other.
And Ayana what?
together could care for and, raise Ayana.
Mm-hmm.
And we could fulfill each other, forever.
That would be...
That's what's in my mind. And obviously there are, I question some points that may be of contention between us.
Like what?
There's obviously a religious aspect. I enjoy going to church and have that faith, and I don't.
What don't
And
you...
I've never gone to church.
What was that?
I've never gone to church much.
Mm-hmm.
And would that be a contentious point for you? And would we see eye to eye on raising Ayana? And how, would you accept our role of growing together in doing that? And, those, and I can think of other ideas, but those are major,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. Oh, and the
Well, we haven't...
fact you want another child, and
Right.
those small things that we have to
And you
discuss.
don't. Do you still feel that you're very animate about not having another child?
So I wouldn't say adamant, but it's just not my thought currently.
Well, like I said, that's something, you may change your mind in the future, but that's not something, this next year coming that I could see happening. And I don't think I'm ready for that. I want to enjoy, Ayana and where she's at and experience that. And, like you said before, assuming we're together, that I can enjoy being with you and Ayana and, and if that came. But, one thing I never said is I had talked about this with another friend earlier this year, well, now next, that if I met someone that didn't want to have children, I'd find contentness in that. If all my needs were met and Ayana's needs were met, then certainly I'd find contentness in that, and that I'd be okay not having another child. I can't really ask for anything more than that.
And there's so many things that we need to learn about each other.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I think we have this connection about my, 95% of me that is, I guess, romantic, anti-hard, just, see wonderful possibilities. Unfortunately, 5% is, has questions.
About what?
And about how do we fit together, parenting with, our ideas on, she said, needs versus wants, and where, two people take care of each other's needs versus wants and desires. Just where people, how they work in a relationship.
It's a
And how these questions of, going to church, not going to church, moving, not moving,
Mm-hmm.
those things get answered, and where we fit together along the scale of, who does what.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's unfortunate, 5% working part of the relationship, that one of the 95% is, like, wow, beautiful thing we can have.
That 5% is such a small portion, though, Scott, that, like I said, relationships are constant on change and dealing with that and accepting, and it's not always you know, it's not always something that's so always 100%, you know, or 100% happy all the time. I mean, there's down. So is that part of that 5% that you're talking about?
Well, I'm sorry that didn't.
What was that?
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, I don't want to say innate. It's not innate, but it is in us how we relate to someone as a spouse, based on, you know, our life experiences. And we have to spend enough time together to see how that is.
So how long do you think it would take between you and I before we figured that out?
Well, I don't know, sweet. You know, we learn, you know, so much every day that we get to spend together. It hasn't been that long.
No, it hasn't.
But, you know, there's that other huge portion that's the, you know, the side of love and caring and everything that can be established, you know, so quickly. And that is, you know, so strong.
What's so strong?
That side of it. The loving, the caring, the connection, the energy.
So where do you feel you're at with me at this point?
The loving, the caring, the energy, that's only growing and only wonderful.
And like I said,
Don't take this discussion. I think, you know, we're focusing too much on. You asked my thoughts.
I know,
You know, and I have to tell you exactly what I'm feeling, you know. So much of my thoughts are, God, I wish I was with her. I want to spend time with Amber now, and I want, you know, everything from just, you know, kiss your soft lips to laugh with the two of you, to see how to string our words together, to, you know, spend, what's that?
I didn't hear the last thing you said.
To hear Hannah put her words together in a sentence, you know, all those small, wonderful things to, you know, see you do your hair, or try to wash your hair in the shower, or, you know, just, you know, picking you girls up from somewhere, you know, or picking Hannah up, or, you know, bringing I don't know, a glass of orange juice and paper to bed and spending the morning. All those things are so much in my thoughts.
No, I take that back. Guadalajara. Okay.
And then I go to Guadalajara.
Do you even know when you're coming back?
Well, the current schedule is the 25th.
Is when?
And then the 25th.
Okay.
And then I go to Guadalajara 28th through the 2nd.
You're going to be in Guadalajara?
Mm-hmm.
That's where Moises is from.
Who's that?
Moises?
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about him, I think, a couple or several times. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's from Guadalajara. No, I take that back. Guanajuato. I take that back. Guanajuato. It's close. It's close to Guadalajara. I don't know on the map, but...
Yeah.
So what are you going to do there?
We have meetings down there.
And then you don't know how long those are going to be?
I mean, it's 28th through the 2nd.
Of February?
January. The 2nd of February, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then... Excuse me.
And then I'm back and I don't have any travel. And then I'm back and I don't have any travel scheduled after that.
So does that mean you and I will be able to spend time together? won't be having to take off.
Right. Right.
I don't know how, that's something certainly for me to look forward to.
Yeah. But I mean, what we need to do, sweetheart, is not analyze our relationship.
Is what?
Not analyze our relationship.
I'm not. I'm
You
just,
know what I mean?
we really
We
haven't.
just need to spend time together and let it, let it grow.
Mhm.
And foster, what we do. And, obviously talk about things
Right.
as they come, but I mean, sitting down and analyzing it is not,
Do you think that?
it's not the love affair that, we should have.
Do you feel that that's what? I don't feel that.
Maybe I'm too romantic that way, I don't know.
I don't think that we have been analyzing our
No,
relationship,
we haven't at all.
but just, I guess finding for me anyway, just finding those guidelines or those boundaries that we have, because, like I said before when I asked you, is there anybody else? What was your response?
With you, I'm so happy that, no.
No, there is nobody else. And
No. Yeah, but even that, you knew that.
well,
I
I wanted,
mean, you didn't have to ask it.
but I had to hear it.
But, and I know, well, I mean, I don't know, but I don't have to ask that of you. I just want to flow together. I don't need a title with you or, a commitment from you. I just feel it.
Feel what?
What's that?
I thought you just feel that that's there. That,
No, I just feel from you the caring and the compassion and enough commitment from you to me. I would never have to ask. I'm confident enough in that.
not to.
But that's just me. I mean, not to analyze and not to ask.
Mhm.
What are you, looking for from me here? It's just gonna flow naturally.
I understand.
It has and it will.
I understand. I do.
That's a beautiful thing to happen. And you asked me, for how long?
Mhm.
I don't know. There's no timetable to, at least I hope there's not, to, a blossoming relationship like ours. It happens. It's naturally.
Mhm.
You need,
Hmm?
you need a timetable.
What was that?
If you need a timetable,
Mhm.
I can't give you one. It'll just, come and feel it on up. That's all I can say.
Scott,
Yeah,
it has been so wonderful to be able to finally talk to you.
it's nice.
I told you before, you could call me anytime.
Yeah.
If your days are busy and you're, involved with your meetings about numbers and finances, if the only time you could find is now or, later. you call me? I mean, that's almost even a better time because Ayana's asleep and I'm not having to fuss with her, and so so please keep that in mind that you could call me anytime. If I'm in a session, of course my phone will be off, but please leave me a message. I always enjoy
I always do. You call, you leave a message on.
When I call?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get my messages?
Yeah, I heard one.
Yeah. Was that the one about not going to San Francisco because Denise has to breastfeed?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like, you're kidding me. She's like, I can't. I want to, but I can't. And it's just like, and Carmel finally called me today. Can you believe that? He did not call me, and the last time I talked to him was on Friday when I went to his work, and he said we were definitely going to Hawaii. And then I didn't hear from him until today. He said he gave the money to somebody and a friend, and I said I couldn't believe he gave it to him. Excuse me. And then he said, well, if you want to go again, just let me know and I'll give you the money. And I was like, oh my God. Like, why didn't you call me? And he said, what am I going to say? What was there for me to say? I gave the money to somebody and they fucked me. He was cussing left and right. It was kind of hilarious because he was so pissed about it.
Yeah.
And
did you give him money?
No, I didn't give him any money.
Oh, you hadn't given him any money?
No. No, he said he gave him $5,000 for the tickets for the hotel arrangements and everything, and they took off with it. And the Fashion Fair Travel is who he thought he gave it to this guy Lou's aunt, and it's no longer there. It was a place, but she's not there. And I said, I can't believe you even trusted Lou. Lou's such a scam on stuff, because they've done so many scams together. I've heard all their stories, and it's funny. But I laughed. I said, I can't believe you even gave him $5,000. So it was funny. But so anyway, I was glad he called because I was really, upset that he hadn't called me for so many days, and we were supposed to have left on the 28th. So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, Scott, have you got New Year's resolution since you talked to me?
Did you ask for a resolution again?
Huh?
Did you ask for a resolution again?
Yes.
Come on now.
All right, well, I
You
won't.
recognize that it is 9 o'clock here.
It's early.
I got back to the hotel at like 7, just after 7. And, I set my alarm, and I'm glad it woke me up because I want to talk to you, obviously. But,
Absolutely. How long's it been?
That's it. Well, I'm just saying that my mind is not functioning at peak ability.
So when will you be functioning at peak ability?
I don't know, not for days now.
Aw,
But no, don't discount anything I've said.
I won't.
Don't take it like that, okay?
Okay. Thank you for saying that, because I was going to say, well, wait a minute.
Oh, God, oh, yeah, no.
Huh?
No, everything I've said is so clear to me. So, to just, that our relationship will grow, in its right time. So beautiful.
So it'll be shortly before my birthday. I will see you.
Well, I should be able to see you the 25th or 26th. In between when I get back to the U.S. and leave for Guatemala.
And we're at the 1st, so that would put us at 3 weeks?
Yeah, a little longer.
Or a little longer.
Yeah, a little longer. It'll go by fast.
I certainly hope so.
Please let it go by fast. What is your favorite movie?
What's that?
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Bubble Boy.
That one's pretty funny.
Yeah. Give me... Oh, okay, give me a favorite. Yeah, just give me a favorite. I was going to specify genre, but I want to know.
What was that?
Favorite movie.
My favorite movie? One that I've seen often? Well, the most recent would be Bubble Boy. I'm very fond of the new Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It took me a while. The first time I didn't like it, but it grew on me. I think I cry every time still since when I see it. Certain scenes just, I just can't help but cry. What? What?
What scenes?
Oh, the one, have you seen it?
I don't think so.
Well, when you get to the one when they're in the water.
But I know the story, obviously, so...
Well, they're in the swimming pool, so that might not be in it. And he confesses his love for her, and she confesses him.
So it's a modern remake of... Okay.
That has to be my favorite. That whole scene, and I wish I could quote it, but I can't.
Okay.
But that has to be by far my favorite. Plus, there's a song in which, when they first encounter, the song alone brings, that just begins the whole, like, you know, lump in your throat and stuff. It's that would have to be one that really gets me. I mean, every time. So yeah. What I was gonna ask, what book did you finish the book you're reading?
Yeah.
What book was that?
Jack Kerouac. It was, letters he'd written while hitchhiking across the country. He's the author of, oh, shit, what's that book? Yeah, it was like his, I think it was during the late 60s when he hitchhiked New York to San Francisco and wrote that book. It's a famous literature piece.
So
I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now.
it's okay. Good book, though. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was interesting. Because it's a place that he was, not geographically, but mentally. That's interesting me simply because I've never had a prolonged period of freedom like that, from responsibility, and, you know. So it's interesting to me and something to incorporate into life.
Jack Kerouac? I'll have to look into that book. To look into that so I could be on the same page as you.
Yeah.
There, I could hear the song in the background. Can you, or my hero song, that Julio Iglesias song?
Oh, yeah. Be my hero, baby. Sing that for me.
You could take my breath away. That's all I got.
Oh, you better get out there. Take that mic.
No, they were trying to earlier, and I said, oh no, I've already done this, and it was bad.
Hopefully, go sing.
So, yeah, I told you earlier, my hand was over Sean's mouth. She was so bad. And Doug was like, oh my, he goes, that was good. I wish I took a picture, but nobody had the film. Well, they have cameras and videotape, but nobody videotaped that. But my hand was over her mouth that whole song because I could not listen to the song with her. It was bad. Oh, I go, Sean, you sound really bad. And she said, I know, I'm really wasted. She doesn't get wasted very often. She's a lightweight. And that's an understatement. I mean, I've already done 3 drinks, 3 cocktails, and almost 4 actually. So I think I'm very clear-minded though. I think I'm, you know, I at least I'll ask you, am I slurring?
No, you sound fine.
I guess I was just so excited, you know. The anticipation to hear from you was just, you know, I was just praying that was like, oh, God, please let this phone call go through. And I go, all I ask is 20 minutes, please. That's it. And I said, anything more than that will be a blessing. And so truly it has, because it's been so frustrating. I'm thankful I get to hear from you, because at least I know you're thinking of me and you're trying to say goodnight. And so it's frustrating to hear all this static and no connection, and then to hear it clear but still not be able to hear anything, and then it's static in here, so I'm...
Did you hear me last time I called?
I heard you.
Good.
I was just like, the anticipation after that, to be able, I was like, just, like I said, I was praying that I could talk to you and be able to have a conversation, because it's just been so frustrating it's just been so stressful, and that I haven't been able to talk to you, and it's been so, not so long, but I mean, certainly long enough that I, to see you, and it's been hard.
Wow. Thank you. It's nice to hear.
And I'm thankful that it's been, my days have been so busy and crazy with family and then work and, all that I've at least been occupied, but thankful to be around when you call. It's just amazing how, my days go. Like I said, when I first started, I said, if I didn't move into my Oval Office, I wouldn't have had the time or opportunity to have spent with you, and so I've been thankful for that, and
we're lucky.
And just trying to stay positive, and with church, I was going to say, what they had talked about, just, what we had talked about, or how I was saying I had a hard, things I was having a hard time with trust with you and everything. Sunday, so many things were cleared in my mind and to me that really, I just turned everything over, kept that mind to turn over things to God, and that those things are in my past, and, all that's important is, right now in this relationship that I have with you and my daughter. I mean, first and foremost, my daughter.
Of course.
And my, getting my business started, and, I'm just so happy. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, it's like I said, it's been really hard dealing with, you being gone and having all these emotions and feelings, and
Carolyn, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm muted here, and because I muted for Zoom. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go back to that. Something happened. My thing.
I'm thankful.
Hold up.
That has been, my days have been so busy and crazy with family and then work and, all that I've at least been occupied, and, but thankful to be around when you call. It's just amazing how, my days go. Like I said, when I first started, I said, if I didn't move into my Oval Office, I wouldn't have had the time or opportunity to have spent with you, and so I've been thankful for that, and,
we're lucky.
and just trying to stay positive, and with church, I was going to say, what they had talked about, just, what we had talked about, or how I was saying I had a hard, things I was having a hard time with trust with you and everything. Sunday, so many things were cleared in my mind and to me that really, I just turned everything over, kept that mind to turn over things to God, and that those things are in my past, and, all that's important is, you know, right now in this relationship that I have with you and my daughter, I mean, first and foremost, my daughter.
Of course.
And my, you know, getting my business started, and, you know, I'm just so happy. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, it's like I said, it's been really hard dealing with, you know, you being gone and having all these emotions and feelings and just that anticipation when I get to, you know, spend that time with you. It's just, it's been very hard.
I'm sorry, it's been hard.
You know, and finally to get to, you know, talk to you is like, God, I'm not going to let this go until we, you know, or when I get able, you know, when I'm able to finally, you know, talk to you, I just want to, you know, I can't wait for a letter. I want to hear all these things you thought about us.
Yeah.
What was that?
No, I was just agreeing with you. It's a sigh of contentment or happiness. Thank you. You're so special.
Yes, I'm here.
You're so special, darling. You're amazing. Now, I want you to go back to that party and sing.
What do you want me to sing?
Whatever you need. Hero sounds good. I've done it.
Well, you didn't even ask what I was wearing tonight.
Oh, I was going to, though.
Were you?
Honestly, I was, but then you asked very big questions. So actually, right after I planned to ask what you're wearing and what you're saying. So you didn't let me get ready with it. What do you want?
Well, first, it's because I haven't been able to talk to you. I wanted to be able to express all these things before, you know. I had some beer before, so excuse me. What I'm wearing, I'll go to that. I'm wearing black pants, which kind of have a texture, well, they're kind of shiny and they have a leopard print, but it's on black. Yeah, they're pretty sexy. And I'm wearing it's kind of a red, but almost a magenta pink, but it looks like foil on a shirt. Yes, it's very sexy too. And it has little beads, like, they're not beads, and they're not rhinestones, but they're metal things that around the sleeves and the neck collar. And some very... Well, remember when I saw you on Monday? It was the first Monday after you came back from Alaska. Do you remember what I was wearing?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, I was wearing these very tall red boots and a long jean skirt.
Okay.
Well, I'm wearing those boots. That's what I was getting at, which you didn't seem very long because I went in and changed before we went on our hiking trip to Squaw Valley. Or no, Squaw's Valley.
Are the pants tucked into the boots?
Well, it was jeans. Or it was a long jean skirt, so I didn't...
Yeah, no, but you have the boots on now.
I have the boots on now. And
black, leopardy pants are the pants tucked into the boots?
No, my pants are over the boots.
Okay.
That would be very out of style.
So the pants aren't skin tight?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are.
They're pretty tight, except they're boot cut.
Yeah.
But they are form-fitting on the top. Yes, they are. But they're stretchy. It's a different material. They look leather, but they have a leopard-looking print, but it's all black. Does that make sense?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're pretty sexy. The shirt's
I'd like to
nice.
check these things out. I'd like to check those out.
Yeah, maybe for my birthday or something. I don't know what we, you know. I don't know. I mean, it's coming around the corner. I mean, should we plan something now for that? Do you have anything in mind?
Well, let me take care of it.
You're going to take care of it?
Mm-hmm. I'll let you know schedule.
You'll what?
I'll let you know schedule.
Okay.
Or I'll tell you when to be free.
Well, maybe you won't want me to wear these. You want me to wear something else.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Gosh, that just, I mean, at the same time, I mean, the anticipation's there, but the other time, I'm going to be 28. I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to my 30s, so I'm probably one of the few that will say that. But I was just talking about that tonight, and I said, I'm actually really looking forward to my 30s, because, I see it as being a good thing.
You're cute.
Ending my 20s, at a positive note, and things are going well with, so many areas in my life that, 30s can only get better, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're getting better for you. You met me. You shortly lived 30, right?
Yes, I'm old.
You're not old. You're so young still. I was watching a program today, and it was talking about, it was some documentary or something about old women, but they were like in their 80s. I caught a glimpse of that. It was just interesting, these old women and, still feeling as if they were, in their 20s, but it only got better. So it was a positive note that 30 though. I mean, look at your lifespan, Scott.
No, not midlife.
You're not even at midlife.
I don't know, I think it's maybe midlife.
Why do you think you're hitting midlife?
Midlife.
I know, why do you think you're hitting midlife?
Well, I think I'll physically be crippled at 60.
Why would you think that?
Just the way I'm going.
You're in great shape. You have an awesome body.
My knees are cracking.
That's nothing. My knees crack. That's nothing.
I just like to joke about it.
You just like to joke about it. Makes you feel better, huh?
Yeah, I am. Self-deprecation is a constant thing with me.
Well, you know my remark on that, right?
I have a big enough ego that it doesn't matter.
But you know my remark on that, right?
I do.
And what is that?
You should say thank you.
That's right. You say thank you when you're complimented. Doesn't mean you have a big head. That means that you're accepting of the compliment.
That is one of
The hardest.
your most appealing qualities to me.
But that's one thing. To say thank you is probably harder than to deny it.
Yeah, it is. Did you hear me what one of the most appealing qualities of you to me is?
So, I have to laugh when I say this. So, Scott, so tell me, do you think I'm intelligent?
Yeah, but that wasn't the quality I was thinking of. Do you know what the quality was that I'm thinking of now?
No, tell me.
Self-esteem.
Me? How's that?
You have good self-esteem. That's difficult to find in people.
Well, that's something
That makes you incredibly appealing and sexy to me.
I know you have mentioned that a couple times to me when we were getting ready for that formal on that Saturday, December. When was that? December.
Yeah, I don't know the date, but yeah.
December 14th.
I told you that.
I think, yeah, you were just like, yeah, you had commented on that. That's something I've had to work very hard on, Scott. That's not something that came to me easily.
Well, that's when it comes, so it's even more important then. It's even more appealing.
I would agree with that because it has been a very hard thing for me to overcome.
Yeah.
And, I'm finally, secure with myself and confident and it hasn't been easy. It's been very hard.
You've done a great job.
Thanks. So,
Just remember how special you are.
I get reminded every so often.
Good.
It's, it doesn't mean it's any easier though, but I get reminded every so often.
deserve it.
I deserve a lot of things.
Yeah.
But you know, everything in its time.
It's fine. It's fine to come to you.
What was that?
It'll come to you, sweetie.
There's always been something. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Please to share.
There's always been something that I always keep to the surface. Is everything in its time, and everything in its time serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, God, don't ever say that. Don't ever say you're sorry for sharing, okay? Beautifully sweet.
What?
I'm here for you.
What was that?
I'm here for you.
I wish you were.
I am and I will be.
Smearing my mascara down my face.
Oh, you're so lovely. It's unreal. Truly, you've truly made yourself just an amazing woman. I know you know that. And never say you're sorry for sharing.
Oh my goodness, I'm alright. I'm alright.
You're wonderful.
I'm drinking a Guinness extra stout. On top of my 3 Kettle One cranberry lime twist.
So you're having breakfast.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, huh? Oh. So when do I get to hear from you again, Scott?
I'll call when it's my nighttime.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When's your nighttime?
What's that?
When's your nighttime?
There's 9 hours difference.
Then,
I take the train late tonight from here to Brussels.
uh-huh.
Okay.
And then,
I'll be in Brussels for at least 4 days.
and things going okay there?
Work hasn't started yet. It'll start tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but yeah, tomorrow the 2nd.
The 2nd, so Thursday.
Yeah.
So who's to say what's to come, huh? It could be intense days for you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I said, well, it hasn't started for you, so your days could be intense, long days with these meetings.
Yeah, probably.
Or
Probably.
you were saying you were going to discuss financial stuff, and
Yeah, it's just going over business plans and
so,
that kind of stuff.
so your nighttime, so I could, somewhat have an idea to when to expect to hear from you. I don't know when your nighttime is.
Well, 9 hour time difference.
So, all I'm saying is I don't know when you go to sleep.
Probably midnight or 1.
So that would be,
3 or 4 your time.
okay,
And then, let's see. If you go to bed at 9, that's 6 o'clock my time.
no,
So
I don't
probably,
usually go to bed till 11.
yeah.
So, 8, your time.
Okay, I might be up by then. I may call when your evenings too.
Like I
I'd
said,
like to talk to you at that time.
like I said,
To me, it's the most intimate time.
the most intimate time because
Just because of the time of day, our psyches are, relaxed, and more focused on relationships as opposed to getting up in the morning and doing things, or going to pick up the dry cleaning, things like that.
so. I don't have my schedule in front of me. I know Friday I have, schedulings here and there, but, I always say, certainly leave me a message. I enjoy getting, I can't talk to you, at least to hear a message from you is always wonderful.
I'll always leave her when I call. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
Yes.
you go back to that party.
Okay.
And let our relationship will grow.
And what?
Okay, our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It will grow.
Mm-hmm.
Have confidence in that.
Okay.
You know how beautiful you are.
Yes.
Okay, sweetie.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, wow, that was incredible. That was that call was an hour and 3 minutes and 39 seconds long. So let's go back to kind of creepy. He sounds like he is mumbling into cupping the thing, or he's like hiding out when he's making this call. Let me go back to our thing. Let me see if that's where we were. I might have it on the other one. Hang on. Nope, I have it here. Oh boy. Hold on, let me get back to our place. We need a page marker. We need a page. I'm just getting our place. Hang on. I'll put the put a picture on while I am. That's a picture that is in the people's exhibits. Let me just go back here to where we were listening to this phone call. Come on. Oh my gosh. Hold on, guys. I guess when everything shut down, it brought me back to the beginning here. So let me just, okay, I'm getting there. We were right where this phone call was, so I know where we were. Okay, got it. All right, let me pull this over. All right, so after the Modesto Police Department starts getting this information from Amber Frye about this relationship, he's continuing some of these phone calls that they're hearing, like, go ahead and stop that one. They start to pay a little bit more attention to Scott Peterson. In early January, they start physically surveilling him. What that means is they put people on him, you see on TV, like a tail. They follow him where he goes. They also, on a couple of different dates, when the defendant rents cars and drives to the Berkeley Marina, they attach a global positioning tracker to his car. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Before I do that, I want to go to the calls button and talk about some of the calls and how the relationship between Amber Frye and Scott Peterson continued during the month of January. Laci Peterson was reported missing, of course, on the 24th. And less than a week later, we just heard the end of the phone call at 12:01. Scott Peterson called her again at 10:05 that evening, a number of times on the 2nd, multiple times on the 6th. And you can see Throughout the month, 12th, 15th, the 19th, the 30th, barely a day goes by where Scott Peterson didn't call Amber Frye during this period after his wife went missing. You hear a lot of these calls because a lot of them were recorded on what I showed you that picture. I talked to how Detective Grogan showed that picture on January 3rd to Scott Peterson. What he said later that night, he was at a dinner with Sharon Rocha. A number of people, when he told them with that incident, said, the police, he said, gee, it's crazy, the police have a picture of me with another woman. Somebody must have morphed my picture on the internet. It looked really good. He doesn't tell them anything at all about this relationship with Amber Frye. This relationship with Amber Frye, he doesn't know she's gone to the police, is recording a lot of these things. In fact, it won't be until January 6th at the Modesto police instigation, she actually confronts him and says, I know what's going on. What's the deal here? And we can talk about that in a minute. Go back to the calendar. On the 5th, I told you surveillance of the defendant began in early January. And on the 5th, the 6th, and the 9th, the defendant made a series of trips to the Berkeley Marina in automobiles that weren't usually associated with him. On January 5th, the defendant spent the morning, he was being followed, driving around town, hanging up some missing posters for his wife. And he was in Lacey's green Land Rover. At 1:10, he goes home, he changes his clothes, he comes out of his house and he gets into his friend Aaron Fritz's silver Subaru, a car that's not usually associated with, you're going to hear with Scott Peterson. Aaron Fritz had left his car at the defendant's home because he had gone to Lake Tahoe for the weekend. So he drives Lacey's Land Rover home, he parks it, goes in, changes his clothes, gets in Aaron Fritz's car and drives straight to the Berkeley Marina. He drives straight to the Berkeley Marina. He drives straight into this area here. He drives around the boat launch ramps. Near the ramp, he stays less than 5 minutes, doesn't contact anybody there. He looks around and then he hightails it back to Modesto. On the 6th, he's again being followed. At 10:21, he drives Lacey Peterson's car to an Enterprise rent-a-car, and he rents a red Honda. He gets into the Honda. Again, he drives straight to the Berkeley Marina. He drives the circular overlook, one that you saw in the picture. I want to talk about this. He drives to this particular circular overlook, and he stays for less than 2 minutes. From this overlook, you can see down here. We'll see in a minute. But out this way, to the right, and then down towards where I guess the 4 o'clock position is Brooks Island, and the area where he went fishing and where Lacey and Connor's bodies will eventually wash up. He drives that circular overlook for less than 2 minutes. He drives to the boat launch area again. He doesn't speak to a soul, and then he leaves the marina. On the 6th, you see, there was a number of phone calls between Scott Peterson and Amber Frye before she can confront him late in the evening when this might even be like midnight, something on the 7th. He is talking to her and he's reading her poems. These are the things she hasn't confronted him. She thinks according to him, he's still in Europe. He reads her a poem by Boris Pasternak. Beneath the willow wound round, he says, with ivy, we take cover from the worst of the storm, with a great coat on our shoulders and my hands round your waist. And he says, if this is how he explains it to her, she asks him, what are you talking about? And he says, my hands around your waist, like covering for people. And then later, they talked about the poem a bit. And he says, well, but this thing about the round coat comes after it. Says, but as it comes after you and intoxicates me, I was thinking it was more of a sexual thing. What he's telling her on January 6th. His wife has been missing for 2 weeks. Later that evening, the Modesto police tell her to, in effect, confront him about the facts that they know, or she knows he's not in Europe, and that is going on. And the way they have her do that is they have her call him and leave him a voicemail message that says something to the effect that a friend of theirs, Cassie, has been trying to reach me. She says she has some important information for me. I don't know what what it's about. Something about you. You are very cryptic. Can you call me and tell me? He calls her back, and he talks a while and hangs up, and then he calls her back. He says, well, I got some bad news for you. And he tells her, yeah, I'm here in Modesto. I'm not in Europe. I have a wife. She is missing. And he basically confirms all these things that I have just told you about the lost wife comment and all that. You will hear that tape. On the 8th, Scott Peterson rents a white Chevy pickup truck. In that particular car, Modesto police arranged to have a GPS tracker placed in the truck. What GPS is, global positioning. Everyone calls the GPS a bunch of satellites floating above the air send down a radio signal which is received by a little receiver. No. Different than when you turn your radio on, you can hear music. Same thing. It's a radio signal. And that radio signal is picked up and received. And it plots your path anywhere you go on Earth. A lot of people have them for camping, for a lot of reasons. A lot of cars come with them now. And you know the OnStar system, you've probably heard of it. It's the same thing. They take one of these little trackers and they put it in the car that he rents. On the 9th, he's physically followed again to the Berkeley Marina. And at the same time, he's also tracked by the GPS tracker. Tracking. This is where he goes. He comes in and he goes initially down to this particular overlook, which if you look down in this direction, which will be in the 11 o'clock direction on the board, overlooks Brooks Island, the area where he says he went fishing, and the areas below Lacey and Connor's bodies come up. Doesn't speak to anyone when he goes straight in. He drives, he looks, and then he moves around to the other side of the marina. He goes around to the other side of the marina and he goes down through the circular overlook. He drives around through the boat ramp launch again, around through where the boat launch area is, and then back out. And these particular, the little dots, this is how the computer tracks the GPS plots. They are set about, I think at this time they're set about every 5 seconds, roughly every 5 or 10 seconds. It goes blip and it records. And it records a blip. And what you do is you take the program that it comes with, and then you can plot it out on a map or on an aerial photograph like we have done here and show exactly where the people went. This is what you're seeing. I'm sorry. Again, he went around the other side of the marina and parked down at the parking area where the overlooks the area where he was and left the marina. On the 11th, it was widely reported in the media that the Modesto Police Department are searching for a body. What happened was, on the 10th, they have been searching for the last couple of days, I think the 9th and the 10th, with their sonar at the Berkeley Marina, and they have hit on what could be a body. They don't know that because it's just a sonar image on the screen. The case has received a lot of time of media publicity, and that information got out to the media. So it was kind of this big media storm. So the Modesto Police Department released a press release that said, we found an object in the marina that might be a body. We're going to go back and dive for it on Saturday. It's well known, it was well reported that they're going to try to get in Saturday the 11th. They do that. During that time, Scott Peterson stays off his cell phone completely, except to call in and check his voicemail. Throughout the morning, a couple of times he calls in and checks his voicemail. And when he does, that you will ring up those cell towers we talked about earlier. In the morning, sometime around 10:30, if I remember the call correct, I'll go there. He rings and he is near the Berkeley Marina. His phone is being activated at the Berkeley Marina switch. There was law enforcement personnel there at the marina that day, as well as probably 200 media people. Nobody saw Scott Peterson, but we know his cell phone was there. He was checking his voicemail. Later in the day, he's still checking his voicemail, and he's tracked via his cell sites going to a switch in down in Gilroy and Hollister. No activity on his cell phone, not making any calls. You are going to see that's very unusual for him. He receives a phone call from Sharon Rocha on his voicemail, and she is very excited. She says, Scott, it's great news. The Modesto Police Department just found an anchor. They didn't find the body in the marina. I knew it wasn't Laci. She's still holding out hope that Laci's coming home. She says it's great news. Just an anchor. It's nothing. Hopefully they can get out of the marina, not worry about it anymore, and move on to something else. You will hear that call. It's picked up on a wiretap. When Scott Peterson hears that call, he gives a whistle. I wish I could do it. I can't whistle like that. He gives a low whistle like whew. He then immediately calls her back, and he says, "Oh, Mom. Oh, great news. So that's no body, huh?" And she says, "Yeah." She says, "Yeah. Why don't you come over?" He says, "I can't. I'm working down in Bakersfield." His cell site information places him over there in Gilroy and Hollister. He tells her, "I can't come over right now. I'm working down in Bakersfield." He gets a couple of other calls from his parents and from someone by the name of a friend of theirs, Heather Richardson, basically conveying the same information because it's gone out in the media now that a body wasn't found. And he tells them seriously, he tells his parents, "Oh, I can't come by. I am down in Bakersfield working." His cell site again puts him in Gilroy and Hollister. Then this is Heather Richardson. "I'm down in Buttonwillow. I'm not going to be able to meet you." And again, cell site information puts him down in Hollister and Gilroy. On the 13th, Scott Peterson starts taking a number of steps to move his life from Modesto to somewhere else. On the 13th, he sends a letter to a place where he has a shop there at 1027 North Emerald, terminating his lease. Enclosed is a check for payment of January rent. And please accept our intent to vacate 30 days from this date, 1/13, and advised of prorated amount for February. On the 14th, he's in the volunteer center before the press came in, before anyone came in, and he speaks to Terry Western, who is the woman whose house Laci was back at the Christmas party on the 14th. And he says he knows she's a realtor. And he says, I very much need to sell my house. I don't want Laci coming back to this house. And she doesn't really follow up or cover that at all. He then on the 22nd talks to a friend of his, again, Brian Argane, who's another realtor. He asks him by phone if he can sell his house and even if he can sell it furnished. And that call is only about 4 minutes. I'm going to play that for you now. Let me grab that. Hang on. Hold on. Oh, the audio is not available for that one. Sorry. Okay. So I want to go back. I forgot to mention on January 14th, when Scott Peterson asked Terry Western about selling his house, also at 11:58, there's a recorded conversation between him and Amber Frye during that time. It's now that she confronted him on the 6th to now continue to talk about the relationship and whatnot. But it's within knowledge that he's got this missing wife out there. And she asks him, "Scott, why are you wanting a relationship with me? You're going to hear those calls in person. I'm going to read it to you." "No," he says, "Amber, I care about you." She says, "Define care." He says, "Well, I worry more and desire seeing you happy. I worry about you. Desire to make you happy. I desire to help you if you need it. I desire to be, something positive in your life, like a positive partner, I'd like to share things with you, and I think you are just, splendid, for lack of a better word. It's amazing to learn from you and to learn together, and that's my definition of caring. Later in the conversation, she says to him, I'm just so confused that you still want to hold on to me. I mean, all this is going on around you. He says, I stated that I cared about you. You know where I'm coming from. She said, you care? He says, that's all I can say. What's the matter? Amber tells him, you care about her, meaning Laci, but you don't love her. You don't. It's just, I don't understand why you want to hold on to me at this point. And he says, don't you have a desire to hold on to things you care about? The people you care about? Amber, I'm sorry. I can't give you any answers. Just let me say again, that I care about you, and I think you know the truth about me inside. It's a gift that you can share, that you can talk to me, and I just hope that you will, see that it's appropriate to do so. And if you ever can't to share, I think it means care to share, please call me. Now, going back to the calendar on the 26th, the defendant's tracked again with the GPS tracker to the Berkeley Marina. He does the same things that we've seen before. This time he's in Laci's green Land Rover. Go ahead and click on that. You can just see where he went. Down again to the circular overlook and then left the marina. You can click out of there. On the 27th, the defendant rented another car, a Dodge Dakota pickup from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Each of these cars, by the way, when he rented the Honda car on the January 6th, he went to the Berkeley Marina, he came back. He rented the car that same day. On this particular day, I don't know if he returns the car the same day, but he's tracked with the GPS tracker to a slightly different location. You can see, here's the Berkeley Marina. There's a circular overlook that you have seen before. He actually went down the frontage road a little bit, more to the Bay Meadows. I think that's what it's called. Racetrack, which is right there, to an area along the waterfront that again looks out over these areas of Brooks Island and where Laci was found and where Connor was found. Here is a close-up of where he actually went. You can see the GPS tracker was actually set on a little bit different of a setting. That's why these yellow dots are a little further apart. This was probably 15 seconds. Every 15 seconds they were taking a reading. And you can see where he stops. On the 28th, let me tell you about this first before, if I may, this little clip for you. You're going to see an interview. I had a big impact in this case was kind of following this case. At times was even intruding on the case, both with the police and with Scott Peterson. But you're going to hear many of these calls that Scott Peterson had with the media. Hold on. And now he himself frequently used the media for the purposes that he thought he needed to use them for. In this regard, you are going to see that he gave an interview with Diane Sawyer from Good Morning America. I'm only going to play a small portion here, but you're going to see the whole interview during the trial. Okay, so let me see something here. Let's see what this is.
Why were you doing it?
Okay, this is, let's see, this is People's Exhibit 270. And we can listen to this interview. Because it is a public exhibit.
I can't answer. I don't know. That's a question you should have an answer to. Definitely, I don't know.
Were you in love with her?
No. I'd have to say that I respect her. And as I imagine everyone does after seeing her come out and do the press conference, an amazing character she has.
Was this the first time? Are there others out there?
No.
There's no one else who can come forward?
No. our romantic relationship, and that is it's inappropriate. It was inappropriate, and I owe a tremendous apology to everyone, obviously including Amber and her family and her friends and our families. This should have been brought forth by me immediately, the romantic relationship.
Had you told anyone? Did you tell police?
Told the police immediately.
When?
That was the first night we were together. The police, I spent with the police.
You told them about her?
Yeah, from December 24th on.
Did your wife find out about it?
I told my wife.
When?
In early December.
Did it cause a rupture in the marriage?
He's totally lying, okay? He did not tell the police the first night, and he did not tell his wife. Totally lying.
It was not a positive, obviously. It's inappropriate. But it was not something that we weren't dealing with.
A lot of arguing?
No. I can't say that even, she was okay with the idea. But it wasn't anything that would break us apart.
There wasn't a lot of anger?
No.
Do you really expect people to believe that an 8.5-month pregnant woman learns her husband has had an affair and is saintly and casual about it?
Yeah, right, Scott?
Accommodating? Makes a peace with it?
Well, you don't know. No one knows our relationship but us. And that's at peace with it, not happy about it.
Why did you tell her?
It was the right thing.
He obviously always wants to do the right thing.
There's no other reason than that.
Why were you doing it?
Okay, so that's the end of the clip that they played for the jury. And again, that's the People's Exhibit 270. So let's see here now. You're going to hear, as I have already told you, that the information that he told Diane Sawyer has been broadcast around the world was not true. On January 29th, the defendant sold Lacey Peterson's Land Rover to Rogers Auto Sales in Modesto. He traded it in for a white pickup truck, I believe, on the 18th. Go to February 18th. But first go back. You can see the phone relationship and the conversations between Amber Frye and Scott Peterson come fairly regularly all through the month of January. You saw into February, you can see she called him a couple of times on the 3rd, exchanged calls on the 4th, numerous calls on the 7th from Scott Peterson calling Amber, and all the way through until the 19th. The 19th was the last conversation between Amber Frye and Scott Peterson, and that's because the Modesto Police Department told her now is the time to break off the relationship. And you can hear that call. And she actually told the defendant that until this situation is resolved with his wife, he shouldn't call her anymore. On the 18th, a second search warrant served at the house and in Scott Peterson's rented storage unit. Remember, he's moved out of his shop. He moved a lot of stuff into a rented storage unit, and I'll show you some more of those pictures here. This is the rented storage unit. You can click through there. Some of this stuff that he had in there in the shop in this trash can was found in the rented storage unit. It's full of just junk mail and other miscellaneous papers and stuff. And he also had a small album that contains wedding pictures of Scott and Lacey Peterson. Hold on a minute, just trying to get back here to you guys. Okay. Some differences between the police went to his house on the 18th, you can see the nursery, that it's basically being used as a storage room. It's got a number of items in there. Some leather chairs, one in the right-hand corner next to the... there's two of the ones that are in there. Go ahead. He's moved this spare. The bed was in there, spare bedroom out. And go ahead. Click through there, out of the computer room. Keep going. And he's put it up against the window, kind of blocking the view into the house. Go to April. At this time, we get to, I'm almost finished. Before we get into Laci and Connor's bodies being found, they are found at the locations I have been kind of pointing out to you throughout the day. They're at the Richmond shore. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the investigation. At this point, the Modesto Police Department has devoted a ton of man hours and other things to try and solve what has happened here. We talked about the reward. We talked about a number of other things. They investigated a number of other people. They drew up a list of sex registrants who lived in the area, and they looked into them. They had, because of the media attention, they had received something to date, something like 9,000 tips. In fact, even as we sit here today, we continue to receive letters and whatnot from people who write who are clearly just crazy or out there saying things that they say they know about this case. The vast majority of those tips are either just from people who are making stuff up, you are going to hear, or psychics saying that they saw Laci Peterson underground somewhere or something of that nature. But there were a number of people who called in, and especially as the media attention continued, more and more people called in who said they saw Laci Peterson. People say, a lot of people called in, and they say Laci Peterson on the 24th or after. In fact, people worldwide have called in. From other countries, have called to the Modesto Police Department to say they have seen Laci Peterson. They checked into a number of those checks. One was in Longview, Washington. They pulled that. It's not Laci Peterson. One was in Upland, California. Someone said they saw her. They pulled that tape. It wasn't Laci Peterson. Basically, whenever there was a 5-foot pregnant woman, sore, heavy woman with dark hair, we got a call from somebody saying it was Laci Peterson. And the Modesto Police Department looks into any of those tips. You're going to hear during the course of this case that the Modesto Police Department completed a perfect investigation. No, you are not. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that. They are human beings, just like all of us. Garagos says, objection. This is argument. Judge says, I think it is. Sustained. You're getting into argument. Stasso says, so. Are these tips people claiming to see Laci Peterson? Police followed up and as best they could. Let me just give you some examples. A woman named Diane Campos called in on the 26th. She sees the news. She sees that she saw Laci Peterson. She says that she saw Laci Peterson walking her dog along the path in Dry Creek Park at 10:45 in the morning, accompanied by 2 men. Well, the description of clothes she gave, you are going to hear, didn't match the description of clothing that Laci Peterson was recovered in. Also, she said that she saw this at 10:45, and the police knew that Karen Service had found the dog at 10:18. So you're going to hear from the detective who took that tip and that he didn't think it was credible. You're also going to hear from some other people. A woman, probably you're going to hear about a woman by the name of Diane Jackson who called in a tip saying that on the 24th, she called this in on the 27th. She said on the 24th, she was driving down Covina Avenue and she saw a van parked across the street from Laci and the defendant's home, and that there were 3 men standing by the van. She didn't say she saw Laci Peterson or anything really to do with it, but she wanted to call that in and report it, and that it was about 11:40. Again, the police will tell you that they didn't find that to be a real credible lead in this case because they knew the dog was already found at 10:18. You're going to hear a number of tips like that and a number of these sightings. What I ask you to do at this stage is just the opening statement, is pay attention to the evidence as it comes in. Pay attention to what these people say who saw Lacey Peterson was wearing, because what went out to the media is what the defendant said she was wearing when he left. Garagos says, objection, this is argument. Stasio said, this is evidence that's going to come in. The judge said, if it's going to be evidence, it can come in. Overruled. Like example, you might hear from a man named Homer Maldonado. He gave multiple interviews to the media about what he says he saw. He claims to have seen Lacey Peterson on the 24th. He tells the media there is a recorded interview. You will see it. He is saying, I know it was her. He even thought he'd tell you that he never met her before and never saw her before. They saw her in the media pictures. I know it was her, though, because she was wearing black pants and a white shirt. Well, you're going to hear that when Lacey Peterson was found, she was wearing khaki maternity pants. So pay attention to these sightings. You're going to hear about them in this case, and that's going to be part of this case. Before we get going, I have a 4-minute clip that puts all these areas into picture that I want to play for you now, and then I'm going to talk about where they were found. Before we go, before we start, this is a picture you saw of the defendant's home, 523 Covina. And go ahead and start it. Defendant said he went 90 miles. We're kind of jumping over, along the Altamont there. Jumping over to the Berkeley Marina. Go ahead. Pause it right there. The reason the tiles are different colors, you're going to hear, just so you know about this, that there are more accurate aerial imagery. Since this was only an area we were concerned about, we only used it on this particular area. You can see the areas here. These are GPS areas that we previously talked about. This movie will give you a good overview of the areas where the bodies were located when we talk about it. Pause it right there. I'm going to put I have right here, because this is the area where Trimble, Deputy Anderson's dog, was working. First picked up a Lacey Peterson scent and ran down that particular boat ramp, stopped about right there, gave the end of the trail signal, go ahead. Again, this is going over the racetrack once. What it's going to do now is pan back to where the Berkeley Marina is in relation to that, as well as pan forward so you can get a view of what you can see from that particular location. The panning back towards the Berkeley Marina, you can see the location from the racetrack area. Pans around, and this is Brooks Island. You can see it there, as well as there is a location where we actually start going down there. Lacey's body was found. I'll show you that. Right around that, this is the location right where Lacey Peterson's body washed ashore and was found. Again, it will pan back to show you where that is in relation to the Berkeley Marina right there. This is Brooks Island. This is the location where the defendant said he went fishing. Here's the location where Connor Peterson's body was found. There is a tidal flat. If you're at high tide, it's covered in water. At low tide, it's flat ground. You're going to see that this is all tidal flat. There is a walking path here. There is nowhere to drive down. You can't drive a car down to this particular location. You can walk along the beach here at low tide. The low tide, you can walk out onto the flat. But high tide, it's mostly just covered in water. Okay, it pans back. Show you where it is in relation to Berkeley Marina, where it is in relation to Lacey's body being recovered. This is Brooks Island. This is the area where the defendant said he went fishing. Go to April 12th. On April 12th, there's a few things happening. There is a huge, not to overstate, there is a large storm that occurred that day, springtime. We had late rains that year in 2003, April 12th. And there was a heavy, heavy storm in San Francisco Bay. This caused higher than normal wave action there. Ralph Chang is a hydrologist, PhD, from the U.S. Geological Society that you're going to hear from. And he's pretty much the main water expert in the bay. He knows all about the tide, the current, how things work. That's what he's going to come here and talk to you about. He did this little chart there for the Modesto Police Department. Here's Brooks Island. Here's where Lacey's body was recovered. Here is where Connor's body was recovered. The reason that this is dark on the chart is because it's a tidal flat. That means it's land in low tide. It's water in high tide. He's going to tell you that based on where these two bodies drifted from, where they had to separate from, and where one ended up, and then the other one, he's going to tell you where his best scientific guess is, where those bodies had to go into the water to start their journey to shore, to separate based on the currents and the wind and everything else that he had to figure out. This is where, they had to separate to land and end up where they did. And that was the area right there on the chart where the red dot is. And you can see that this is the end of Brooks Island, and there is no landing sign on this. Those were the areas that you saw earlier. Go ahead on the 13th. I'm not going to show you pictures of Connor's body yet, but on the 13th, Connor's body is found at low tide. So now we're at land because it's a tidal flat at low tide at the Richmond shoreline. A man named Luby, what he's going to tell you is that he was walking his dog that morning, walking down along the beach. It was low tide, so that land exposed there. And he's just running his dog up on ahead of him. His dog obviously finds something that he's interested in. He walks over and he finds Connor Peterson's body washed up on the shore, right ahead of the tide line. Here is a picture of that in a minute. His autopsy takes place by Dr. Brian Peterson, who is a forensic pathologist from Contra Costa County, on April 14th the next day. Connor is found on Sunday. The autopsy takes place on Monday, but prior to Lacey's body being found. Dr. Peterson is going to tell you that's an important fact for him, and here's why. If he does an autopsy on just the fetus, a fetus only, like let's say a woman had a baby and someone took the baby and then just dumped it out somewhere, or the baby was stillborn and they dumped the body out somewhere. The only thing he is really concerned about is whether or not the baby was born alive. That's his main concern. When he does a fetus alone, he doesn't know any of the other factors regarding that particular baby's birth. And that's what he's going to tell you. That when this baby came to him, Laci had not yet been found. He was not yet able to associate the fetus with any particular pregnant woman. So what he was looking for was whether or not he could prove Connor Peterson was born alive or dead. And he's going to tell you that based on Connor's level of decomposition, he was not able to make that determination, nor was he at that exact moment able to determine a cause of death, because all he had was a very badly decomposed fetus. That was it. Later, before you go on, later Lacey's body is found. I think the autopsy takes place at 9 on April 14th. Lacey's body is found at 11:30. When he's able to put the two bodies together, he has an obviously pregnant woman who's been murdered, and he has another body. He's able to put those two bodies together. He's able to make a lot more conclusions, and I'll tell you about that. I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but I'm going to show you now the pictures of Connor's body being found. I'm just going to tell you straight up, these pictures are kind of graphic, and they are difficult to look at. So I just want to give you a warning. You're going to see them during the trial. Go ahead, let's start off with where, again, these are found in relation. The body is found behind the jetty right here in this particular tidal flat. Next picture, this is a picture that was taken later, not on the day that Connor's body was found. It was taken to show you what the tidal flat looks like. You can see the residual line is just barely exposed. Come down, there is no waves breaking over the jetty, but the entire flat is covered with water at about, I think it's about 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep. Go ahead. There's another picture. This is one is a little bit closer where the body was actually found. Let's see here. His body was actually found right about here where I'm showing you the red dot. You can see is the blue building in the background. That is where Lacey's body was found. Go ahead. This was taken on the day that Connor Peterson's body, it's down there in the flat area, marked the flag there when they took the picture. And you can see the tidal line there. You can see the tidal line where the debris washed up with the tide. Dr. Cheng is going to tell you the way things wash up with the tide. Don't worry, you're not really seeing pictures here, okay? You're not seeing pictures of the bodies. Just telling you. I'm just repeating what he's saying to the court. Hi, Shanna. Okay, so you can see the tidal line where the debris washed up with the tide. Dr. Cheng is going to tell you that the way things wash up with the tide is the tide's receding, heavy items are deposited first. They come over with the waves. As the tides recede, the heavy items settle first and the lighter items settle last. As the tide, as whatnot, debris, trash, and he's right ahead of it. This is a picture of Connor Peterson as he was found on April 13th. Here's the line of seaweed and trash and tidal debris. The ocean is towards 12 o'clock, part of the picture, and Connor Peterson is lying there. Connor Peterson, where he was found with a piece of plastic material that was wrapped kind of around his body, under his arm, around his neck, kind of loose, off to the side. You're going to see a picture of that. What the doctor is going to tell you is that based on his examination of Connor's remains, that the plastic material had nothing at all to do with Connor Peterson's death, or really anything to do with him, other than the fact that he floated into it as he was coming to shore. The next picture, you can see here a better picture close up. I'm sorry, these pictures are difficult to look at, but you can see the plastic material. It's kind of looped around. Actually goes under his arm, it goes around his wrists, and then around here. This right here is the top of a plastic coffee cup, in case you're wondering. Connor's body was, his body is, as you saw, is severely decomposed. However, when Dr. Peterson compares it to Lacey's body, which you're going to see in a minute, it's severely less decomposed. And the reason Dr. Peterson is going to tell you that happened is because Connor Peterson was protected in Lacey's womb. He's going to tell you that Laci Peterson was murdered, and Connor Peterson remains in her that whole time. She died, and then the baby died inside of her. She went into the water, and the baby went into the water inside of her. The way pregnant women decompose, and I hate to be graphic or anything about this, but this is evidence you need to know, is the womb is very well protected. In fact, it's probably the most protected area of a woman's body as the decomposition process starts in. It's one of the last areas to actually decompose. What happened in this particular case, the doctor is going to tell you, when Laci Peterson was killed, she went into the water and she started to decompose. The last thing that happened was her womb gave way, and probably due to that large storm, which was excusing tidal action and whatnot, her womb gave way. Connor Peterson had floated to shore. She broke free and started floating to shore. Here you will see Laci Peterson had been exposed to the outside elements you're going to see from her rate of decomposition for 3 to 6 months. A forensic anthropologist, Dr. Allison Galloway, examined her body, and that's the best that she can come up with for an estimate. She says her body was exposed open in the San Francisco Bay, underwater for 3 to 6 months. Dr. Peterson and Dr. Galloway both are going to tell you that at most, Connor Peterson was exposed to the outside elements. That means the water for 1 day, or maybe 2 days at the most. There was a significant difference in the level of decomposition. Connor had been soaking in a fluid environment since Lacey's death, which What that means is that the womb is full of fluid, amniotic fluids, and whatnot. That remains there even as the body decomposes. Connor's in that environment, and he is soaking. His body becomes soft. The doctor will use the term macerated. The best way to think of this, the doctor is going to tell you, is like a piece of paper that you soak in water. It slowly becomes soft and pulpy, very malleable. That's exactly what happened to a fetus, if they die in utero. Like the doctor will tell you happened in this particular case, due to the level of decomposition. Also, his body became extremely malleable. He was almost kind of like jelly, for the lack of a better term. His skull had not fused, meaning that his head could collapse down. The doctor is going to explain all these things to you. Also, finally, he's been soaking in this environment for such a long period of time. His body had swelled in size, larger than a fetus normally would be at this level of development. Dr. DeVore is another doctor. Greg DeVore is another doctor you're going to hear from. He's called a perinatal radiologist. He does many ultrasounds on pregnant women, and he tries to determine fetal growth and other things in femur bones. That's his specialty. He did a post-mortem ultrasound as well as measurements of Connor Peterson's femur bones. He did this to try to determine at what age Connor Peterson stopped growing. The reason that this was important to him was because if you go with Dr. Peterson says Connor Peterson died in utero inside Lacey's body, the day he stopped growing is the day that Laci Peterson died, which he was able to determine based on Dr. Galloway, the forensic anthropologist's measurements, as well as his own measurements and his ultrasound, that Connor Peterson died sometime between December 23rd, because we know that she was at the doctor's and the baby was healthy on the 23rd, and due to ultrasound technology, sometime between December 23rd and December 25th. And now he's going to tell you, not like the television show CSI, you're going to hear that repeatedly from experts. This is not like CSI. They can't come in here and solve this case for you in 1 hour. They can give you their best estimates. And the best technology that Dr. DeVore had is plus or minus range of 3 days. So to be completely accurate here, you would have to say that he died sometime between December 20th, which we know can't be the case because the baby was alive on the 23rd. Or as late, I guess you could say, as late as the 28th. I think the doctor would probably have to give you the outer range. Like I told you before, he was found with a piece of plastic material that was wrapped around his neck, his arm, and his chest. And we're going to look at a close-up picture of the baby now, so be ready for it. You can see the plastic material looped around the baby. It was kind of tied in this loose kind of bow tie under his arm. This picture was taken of the baby and was brought back to the coroner's facility. In order for that to happen, the baby had to have floated to the shore, come up over the jetty in the waves, been washed around in the tide. He then is taken up, and very carefully. But the fact he has to be gathered up in a blanket and put into a bag and then transported, so the baby throughout this whole process has moved around quite a bit. The baby and the plastic material, what you can see though, and the doctors are going to tell you, is at that, basically in Dr. DeVore's, Dr. Galloway, and Dr. Peterson's opinion, the plastic material had nothing at all to do with Connor Peterson's death. What Dr. Peterson will tell you, and you can see it here, is that this tape is, I think it is 2 centimeters between the plastic material and the baby's neck, and there is no injury at all to the baby's neck. What the doctor will tell you is that he felt that if this item had been tied around the baby's neck or tied around the arms or something like that, there would be injuries to the baby's skin that you would see. There is nothing on this particular child. You can see from the other side again, you can see close up on the neck, there's no injury there. There is nothing under the arm. Piece of plastic that we saw in the other picture, the doctor will tell you that this picture was a piece of kelp, has iodine in it, which leaves a red mark. That's what you're seeing. The judge says, how much longer are you going to be? 30 minutes more, DeStasso says. The judge says, let's give the court reporter a break. And they come back. Thank you, Your Honor. Lacey Peterson. Lacey Peterson was found along the Richmond shoreline, like I told you, on the 14th of April. The next day, go ahead, show the pictures. Her autopsy took place later that day. And the same people participated. Dr. Allison Galloway, a forensic anthropologist, and Dr. Brian Peterson, the pathologist in Contra Costa County. Her body was found at 11:30 a.m. in the morning by a woman, Alina Gonzalez. You'll hear from her. Again, these pictures are fairly graphic, and I'm going to show you pictures of Laci now, so go on ahead. Again, just put this in perspective so you know where we're talking about. Here's the overview. The body was found right here. This is an overview from the 14th of April. It was a picture taken from a helicopter. You can see that the vegetation here is green, and that's because of the rains and stuff that had just happened, that they just had. And Laci's body is right here, underneath the yellow tarp. You can see where it washed up on the shore. You're going to see pictures in a minute, but the water actually on the 12th came all the way up to the breakwater. This is low tide. You can see her body is fairly up the shoreline. The tide is receding where it's taken. The high mark on the water is actually up here, above the body, a fairly substantial amount. Laci's body, as she was found on April 14th. You can see the tide receding, and you can see Laci. The last picture I'm going to show you of Laci's body that was found, and you can see she was found with what would be her face down position. You can see that this is her buttocks, her ribs. When she was found, at the time, she was wearing a maternity bra, which you can see right here. You can see the tattered remnants of these khaki maternity pants coming down the front. The back is already worn away. The waistband of her pants is right here. She was found with her panties on, her khaki maternity pants over that as well as a bra. Hold on a minute. You can see that her arms were missing. Laci's head was missing, as well as the lower portions of her legs. And I'm going to talk to you in a minute about what the doctors are going to tell you about that. The next picture is very hard to look at, so be advised. Show the picture of Laci's body. Here's the lower portions of her leg. Here's the maternity pants on. Her panties were on, and there's a line of duct tape that actually runs up and around her body. You can see that this is the top of it. The duct tape continues up around. This is actually Laci's torso. This is her breast right here. And that's her maternity bra on top. Missing. She's missing her head, lower portions of her arms, lower portions of her legs. What doctors are going to tell you is that as someone decomposes, and I know this is hard to hear and see, but if somebody decomposes, particularly in water, if you're floating down, you float face down if you die. If you throw the body in the water, it would float face down. The head will be down. The arms and legs will be hanging down. Tidal action will cause those areas back and forth to move. The first parts to degrade are the joint areas in the arms, legs, and in the neck and head. That's how a body comes apart as it decomposes in the water. If the body is weighted down, such as with cement anchors or weight, that will accelerate the process. What happens is if you tie down weights around a body, you don't even have to tie very significant weights. What the doctors will talk to you about is when someone goes scuba diving. For example, if you have a 160-pound person in a wetsuit, you don't have to put 160 pounds of weight on them. Just put 20 pounds of them to get rid of that buoyancy. What happens is if you weight somebody down, they'll go down to the bottom. but as the decomposition process starts, gases are produced in your body. And you'll usually cause a body to float in many cases. Not always, but in many cases it will. If a body is weighted down and the body is floating above, so let's say you've got arms, weights on your arms and legs, and you're floating above these weights in the tide. That back and forth action of going back and forth from those decomposing gases will accelerate the decomposition process. Now, those gases don't stay with you forever. It's not like once you produce those gases, then you're going to float forever. What would happen is the gas will produce, you might float up, the gas will be released, you might float down. That might happen 1 or 2 different times. Eventually, though, the gases will dissipate and you will sink. The body will stay down. The body wouldn't float or float indefinitely from that period on. That's how it works. That's not how it works. Go ahead. Click out of there. According to Dr. Galloway, as you saw, she was severely decomposed. There was really mostly just skeletal remains left. That's due to a combination of factors. Internal organs decompose relatively quickly. Also, there was tidal action as well as significant action of animal feeding on her body. I know that sounds horrible, but the bay is full of crabs and other organisms that will feed on decomposing flesh or a body that's put in there. And there's significant evidence of that on Lacey's body. What I also need to tell you is that her external genitalia was not injured. What that means is there was no injury noted to her vagina that was present on her body. Her cervix was intact and closed. What that means is Connor Peterson was not born vaginally from Lacey Peterson. She did not have a vaginal birth to produce Connor Peterson because her cervix was tightly closed when the doctor did the autopsy. There is also no evidence of tool marks on Lacey Peterson's body. What forensic anthropologists look for when they do an autopsy of someone who has died, especially under these circumstances, where it's clearly a homicide, they look for evidence of tool marks. What that means is incisions on bones, incisions on flesh to see if the person was stabbed, to see if they were cut up in some way, to see if there was evidence of someone dismembering the person. There was no evidence on Lacey Peterson at all, that she had any of those things happening to her other than the fact her body was coming apart as part of the decomposition process, and this is what Dr. Peterson will tell you. And finally, due to her level of decomposition, he's going to tell you that he was not able to determine a cause of death. With her head missing and her organs and all of the parts of her that were missing, the only internal organs that were present was her uterus. That was intact except for a large tear that went down the front that Dr. Peterson will tell you was due to decomposition and tidal action. And it was the tear that allowed Connor Peterson to be released from her body. But due to her level of decomposition, he was not able to determine the cause of death. Going back to this particular last weekend in April, there was a media firestorm when these bodies were found. You're going to hear that and might even have experienced some of that. It was well reported that there was a fetus and an obviously deceased woman who had been found, and there was much speculation in the press that this was Lacey and Connor Peterson. The Department of Justice did accelerated DNA testing. Again, they're going to tell you that this is not like CSI. You don't get DNA results in an hour. You don't get to take some blood, throw it in a computer, and it spits out who did it, why they did it. Everything else in 1 hour like CSI. But the accelerated DNA testing can be done in 3 to 5 days, and that's what they did in this case. So it was announced via a press release or something that the identification of these two bodies was going to take place most likely on Friday, April 18th. Subsequently, let me just jump ahead, on Friday, the Department of Justice did announce those results. And they'll come here and testify to you that it was proven, pretty much. I mean, it was like 1 in a billion chance that these were not Lacey and Connor Peterson. So they can tell you that they conclusively believe the bodies via DNA match were Lacey and Connor Peterson that were found. Going back on the 18th, the situation was everyone was waiting for. The law enforcement authorities, the families, everybody was waiting for the results of the DNA testing to be announced. Was this Lacey and Connor or not? And while this was going on, the defendant in this case, the Modesto Police Department, after Lacey and Connor were found, because they were fairly certain that's who the bodies were, got another author. Got the court to authorize another wiretap on the defendant's phones. They found out from that the defendant was down in San Diego, where his parents lived. And they started having the Department of Justice sometime during that week. I don't know the day. Just kind of keep track of him. Keep an eye on him. And when they did that, when the results came out, the Modesto Police Department decided, made the decision to arrest the defendant for this crime. When that happened, they started following him that morning. They were waiting for the results to be announced, and Scott Peterson was being followed. While he was being followed, he realized that, and he led officers on a very circuitous, long kind of track that went all the way around 405 freeway, over and down on 15, San Diego, back the 15 freeway, all around, and he was driving very erratically on the freeway, stopping and starting and doing a number of other things. And there's some video that was shot from the Department of Justice plane or helicopter that you're going to see a lot of that tracking through that particular area. Finally, the decision is made, due to that erratic driving, to arrest the defendant. He drives into the Torrey Pines golf course where he's arrested. When they walk up on him, they find out that he's significantly changed his appearance. He's grown a heavy goatee, which he dyed orange blonde. He's dyed his eyebrows blonde and dyed his hair blonde. After he was arrested, he talked to a woman by the name of Heather Richardson, a friend of his, and she asked him, because it was reported on the news that he dyed his hair this color and goatee and eyebrows, and she said, "What was going on with that? Why did you do that?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, that really wasn't anything. What that was all about was that I'd been swimming in a friend of mine, Aaron Fritz's pool, and the chlorine in the pool had dyed my hair that color." You're going to hear from Aaron Fritz that Scott Peterson had never even been in his pool. This is a picture of him without the glasses. You can see the line of his hair where it was dyed. At the time he was arrested, he was driving a Mercedes automobile that he had purchased using his mother's name. He had gone to a man named Michael Griffin on April 12th that he wanted to purchase this used Mercedes for, I think, $3,000. When they filled out the information to sell the car, he said, "My name is Jacqueline Peterson." And Michael Griffin said, "Jacqueline Peterson, you know you're a man?" And the defendant said, "That's kind of a boy named Sue kind of thing." He had tried to purchase a vehicle prior to that from another man in San Diego, I think the day before, using his mother's name, but the man had already agreed to sell the car to someone else. And you're going to hear from him too. At the time he was arrested, the car was not registered to him. He had not filled out the registration paperwork, put it either in his name or in his mother's name. You can see this change on the title form that Michael Griffin filled out. You can see his name down there, and the date of purchase was April 12th. And you can see that it was the name of Jacqueline Peterson. You'll see those documents. At the time he was arrested, he had almost $15,000 in cash on his person. He had I think in one area, he had $10,000, and somewhere else he had like 2,000 and 2,000, some denomination like that, like 14,000 something, almost $15,000. He had his brother's identification. He had other family members' credit cards. He had multiple changes of clothes and a large amount of camping gear. And I'm going to show you some pictures of I don't mean to block your way. I'm sorry. Go ahead, click on that 15,000. Here's the amounts of cash he had. Those are $100 bills. This is the other portion of cash. Like I said, it was divided up into two separate areas. He had double-sided knife that was down in the driver's side door, in the storage compartment on the driver's side door. He had 4 separate cell phones. And you're going to hear some information about his cell phones. That he actually had gone out and got another cell phone in a different name at one point, I think in March. And you're going to hear from the investigator about that. He had a credit card. He had a ticket from the San Diego Museum of Art, the Grandeur of Mexico. Go ahead, clicking through this. He had a different identification. He had his own driver's license as well as his brother's. He had credit cards for himself and for one of his relatives, Ann Bird. He had a shovel. He had a backpack with sandals. He had a number of items here. He had a rope. He had a fishing knife, a water purifier, a hammock. Got some close-ups. A number of different knives, as well as work gloves. All this stuff he had with him in his car when he was arrested. He had a camp axe, binoculars, a hammock, and a snorkel and a mask. He had a number of different pairs of shoes. He had a fishing pole. He had some reward posters for Lacey Peterson showing $500,000 that was available. I'm on camera.
Oh, okay.
In Zoom. Okay. A number of different knives. Okay. $500,000 that was available. He had a number of different pairs of clothes. Keep clicking through there. Go ahead. More clothes.
Okay,
he had a picture of Laci. He had a picture of him and Laci. He had some other items. Go ahead. More clothes. And he also finally had a letter that Amber Frye had sent to him. This was in a car that he had just purchased on April 12th. He had a letter that Amber Frye sent him on February 16th, shortly before she stopped contact with him. Okay, this is a bunch of the stuff that he had with him. And then a letter. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a common sense case let me thank you right now. I appreciate your attention as I did this opening statement for you. At the end of this case, I'm going to ask you to find the defendant guilty of the murder of his wife, Lacey Peterson, as well as his unborn child, Connor Peterson. Thank you. Is that really the next page? Hold on a minute. That seems like... So in here they have, I don't know, something in there, who knows. And this is the defense's opening statement. We'll start... Guess we'll at least start some of this. This is the case of the People versus Scott Peterson. Let the record show the defendant is present with counsel and the jury is in the jury box along with the alternates. And to accommodate counsel, we have had the defense rearrange the flat screen so everybody has an opportunity to see what's going on. Hopefully the jury can see. You have one here and one over there, and then there is this one for the prosecutor, so I can avail myself of that one that's pointed in this direction. Okay, we'll start out. Mr. Garagos, go ahead. This again is June 2nd, 2004. Yes, Judge, I'm going to need 1 second. The jury comes. We need to reset up. If I can borrow Mr. Nalshian again. Good morning. The opening statement is supposed to be a kind of roadmap, if you will. People often say preview of what the evidence is going to show. It's not supposed to be an argument. It's not supposed to kind of spin your side of the case or anything else. What we will do and what we will show you in this case is what we believe to be a fair interpretation of the evidence is. And we'll show you, I think, some of the holes, some of the problems that the evidence, at least as presented yesterday to you by the prosecution, I think will show that Scott is not only not guilty, but actually innocent. One of the first things that I think we have to address in this case is that, as you know, as the judge read to you, he's charged with 2 counts of murder. He's not charged with the abuse of Amber Frye. He's not charged with having an affair. In fact, I don't think there's going to be any dispute, and I told most of you that he did have an affair. There is clearly, you want to call him a cad, you want to say his behavior is boorish. We're not going to dispute that. But the fact of the matter is that this is a murder case, and there has to be evidence in a murder case. And I'm going to run through that, if I could, with you, what the prosecution's theory is, as they told you yesterday, and then I'm going to also show you what the actual evidence is in the case so that you understand we're dealing with here in a special circumstance murder case where they are seeking the death penalty. The first item, as you saw yesterday, they showed you the pictures of Amber and Scott. And then they showed you the picture of Laci sitting in a chair. And contrasted the fact that here is Laci by herself, and here is Amber with Scott, and Scott is looking like he's partying. The fair import of that is that you get to hate Scott, and objection, Your Honor, this is argument. Judge says, here we go. This is preliminary, overruled. Thank you. So the fact of the matter is that what their theory is, their motive for this crime is the affair with Amber. What they haven't told you is that at the time that Scott supposedly makes the decision to kill Laci, he had exactly 2 dates with Amber. In total, he had 4 dates. And the evidence is going to clearly show you that Amber was upset with Scott for not calling. She was upset with him for not giving her a Christmas gift. And she ends up calling 16 times on December 26th. Their theory would be that Scott didn't want to have a child and didn't want to have... The evidence is going to show that he didn't want to have a child and that he didn't want to have a relationship and that he was therefore going to chuck his entire life that he had built with Laci for this woman that he had 2 dates with so that he could come in with her built-in family, which is her then 2-year-old child. The next thing that they're going to keep focusing on is that he went fishing on December 24th. But what you have to understand about that, understand what this evidence is going to show you, is what the police showed up that day. Mr. DeStasso went through this whole painting the picture of what happened. Come back to the house, or come over to the house, and the people were questioning him. The fact of the matter is, the people did not believe that he had gone fishing. He was trying to prove to them that he had gone fishing. They didn't buy it. As early as 7 o'clock that night, you will hear the witness after witness, police witness, tell you they, not for a minute, believed that he went fishing. He was the one who was trying to prove that he was at the Berkeley Marina. The interesting thing is, and you have heard this so many times, that he went fishing on Christmas Eve. Who goes fishing on Christmas Eve with an 8-month-old pregnant wife? He didn't go fishing on Christmas Eve. Let's make that perfectly clear. He went fishing in the morning. He left the house somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. He had plans, and everybody will tell you this, to be back by 4 o'clock, and he was. In fact, back by 4 o'clock. They had plans that evening to go over to Sharon's house for Christmas Eve. Now, Yesterday, there were some statements that were made about Scott was not an avid fisherman. Well, this is just a flat out going to be contradicted by the evidence. In fact, does anybody remember yesterday? I don't have it on one of my screens, but they flashed up the nursery for Connor. And do you remember what the theme was of that nursery that, by the way, Scott built? The theme of that nursery was a nautical theme. He put that all together. He did it himself. He built that nursery down to the life preserver, down to the blue paint, to the sailboats, to everything else. It was a total nautical theme. And this man, Scott Peterson, has been an avid fisherman since he was 3 years old. Now, he even, this is incredible to me, fished with Lacey on their first date. Something else they didn't tell you about. This is clearly a fact. In fact, at one point, when they were sailing together on a catamaran, the catamaran went over, and Lacey said, "Never again. I'm never getting on another boat with you." But the idea that he was not an avid fisherman is just being belied by what the evidence is going to show you. The other thing that they don't tell you about is clear in the discovery, is that this was not his first boat. They make it seem, or the idea was, this timeline that Mr. DiStasso was telling you about yesterday, the timeline was Sean Sibley phones him about the affair, and the next thing you know, this guy goes out and buys a boat as if that was some kind of a brainstorm that he just had. That was the 4th boat that he had owned. He has bought and sold boats his entire adult life, and now they also brought up the fact of the 2-day fishing license that he bought. This is a 2-day fishing license, and the import was, I think, Mr. DiStasso told you that December 20th he went to Big 5 and he bought this 2-day fishing license. What they don't tell you is that in the search warrant, actually, they didn't even have to get the search warrant. When he let them search his car and search the house, guess what they found? They found other 2-day fishing licenses. They've got them. They're in evidence. You'll see them here. This was not the first 2-day fishing license he had ever bought. He had bought 2-day fishing licenses in the past. He had some of them right here. They knew about it. And he also had a 1-year fishing license. They know it because it's in evidence. Now, they also made much yesterday about this idea that Lacey was not active. I don't know where that comes in, because clearly what the evidence is going to show, they have got reports and they know about the witnesses. She was in a weekly yoga class every week, right up until the time that she disappears. And now you're going to hear testified, and I think Mr. Prosecutor referred to it yesterday, how she had gone to Carmel. Remember, there was that timeline, and that Sharon had talked to her, and that sometime shortly after Sharon talked to her, she went to Carmel. When they went up to Carmel, you will hear that she was walking up hills to the point where Jackie Peterson, Scott's mom, who wears the oxygen, has had lung problems, could not keep up with her, and she was walking actively. And that was within the week to 10 days prior to her disappearance. Now, you're also going to hear probably today, as long as I don't take the whole day talking, from Margarita Nava. She is the housekeeper who was there approximately 4 times. She would come every other week. She would come in the morning, and I think it was on Mondays. She's going to tell you that on December 23rd that Lacey left. Remember, this is when they are saying that she is apparently not active. She left and went to Trader Joe's because she was having the entire family over on the 23rd. She got 5 or 6 bags of groceries. Margarita will tell you that when she comes and testifies today, Margarita didn't help her with the groceries. She has hauled those groceries into the house herself. The other reason, just parenthetically, is that interesting. Remember yesterday you heard from the prosecutor that Scott, one of his lies, so to speak, was that Scott had described a Martha Stewart show. And the Martha Stewart show about meringue If you filled in, this is one of the things that Martha Stewart about the meringue played on the 23rd and not on the 24th. And that's what shows that Scott was lying. This is the linchpin to the prosecution's case. I think, in fact, may we have the first that came out as it was described yesterday out of an interview with Officer Braccini. Got the report? Do you want to come back to it? I'll come back to it. So you have the unloading of the groceries. Now, let me tell you what else you got. You've got many witnesses to her walking, and I'll get to that before we're done. But you've got to have a succession of witnesses who saw her walking and saw her walking the dog, and she would tell people that she was walking the dog. And that's what she did for exercise. Laci was very concerned right at the end of her pregnancy. And by the way, she was still only 32 weeks. The day that she went on the 23rd to visit Dr. Yip in the records marked down 32 weeks. That's exactly how pregnant she was. She wasn't 8.5 months pregnant. She was roughly under the lunar week, 7.5 months. And she was walking. She was concerned about her weight. She was concerned about the swelling of her ankles. And she would walk because of that. Now, there is also this idea that Scott wanted no children. And that's something that seems to be the prosecution is fixating on. The fact of the matter is that he arranged his work schedule to improve the chances of pregnancy. Laci had a very difficult time getting pregnant. She had her own medical issues, and it was such that she had an ovulation predictor. She was taking pregnancy tests, and when she was ovulating, she would call up Scott and have him come over so they could get pregnant. There are numerous prosecution witnesses. It's replete with Thru the Discovery, who will tell you that Scott was excited. In fact, the prosecution will admit to you, and they're going to have witnesses up here, that one of the things they did, they went to the doctor's office, and every single person there, they asked the nurse, they asked the doctor, they asked, was he there? Did he look okay? Did he look like he wasn't excited? Nobody said a word about it. The fact of the matter is, the evidence will show you that he went to every single appointment, and as I indicated before, was excited enough that he was the one who personally built that nursery that you saw in those pictures of yesterday. Now, the police accuse Scott of lying and not cooperating. Kind of use this for as I indicated before, he has to convince the police he was at the marina. He's the one who gives them the receipt. Remember the receipt that the prosecutor was holding up yesterday and showing you? They didn't go and get that. That receipt was given to them by Scott. He's the one who said here's the receipt. He provided the parking receipt. And he also hired an investigator to go and search for witnesses that would have seen him at the boat launch. Because as you saw yesterday from the marina picture, as you're putting the boat in the water, it's, when you see this boat, my guess is we're going to have a jury view and we'll go out to the marina and you're going to be stunned by the fact that when you get over there and when you start putting that boat in the water, there's no way that if there is a pregnant dead woman with weights on, that you would not see it. In fact, those witnesses have been located, and witnesses who were there, who saw him put this boat in the water, were located. In fact, one of them remarked that he laughed at Scott because he kind of hit one of the pylons there as he was trying to back it into the water, the boat into the water. Now, the other idea, he immediately allowed the police to search his home and his warehouse on December 24th. Remember that? When the police came, he told them the last thing that he remembered about Laci, where he saw her last, what he saw about the dog. They also asked him, and I think it was in an interview with Braccini, try this one more time, see if it works. Okay, here is the interview they're referring to. I don't know what they have because Braccini is asking him. You didn't watch the whole thing? No, she showered. We were watching her favorite show, Martha Stewart. Didn't watch the whole thing? No. You remember what part you saw? I don't know, some cookies of some sort. They were talking about what to do with meringue. Okay, now, the next thing that happens is Braccini reports the following day. He writes down, Peterson remembered Martha Stewart was baking something with meringue. Next, he said, was baking something with meringue. I viewed 1224. Martha Stewart made lemon butter cookies. I find it suspicious she would. Peterson claimed to be watching Martha Stewart on 1224, and there is no meringue mentioned on the show 1224. Next point, the Modesto PD, at that point, files a search warrant affidavit under seal, specifically saying under the penalty of perjury during Braccini's interview, claimed he woke up and watched the Martha Stewart show. According to Scott Peterson, it aired, and the day contains a segment about meringue. We learned that the show was date sensitive, as the dates as part of the program he ordered, received, and viewed it. The meringue segment is included on December 23rd, but it's not mentioned on December 24th. Can you play the December 24th segment? So they play that, and let's see. I played it twice just to make sure Modesto PD could hear it this time. Now, the fact of the matter is that the basis for the search warrant to put in the tractors and tap his phone because he had lied about the meringue. Somebody, and it was Braccini, had said that he watched the tape. It mentioned nothing about the meringue either. Meringue was the 23rd. By the way, you will see the 23rd. There is a segment on meringue on the 23rd also. But this guy just went through, blatantly refused to listen and watch the tape, or something more sinister, and puts in, and Jacobson puts in, that the search warrant affidavit, and he swears under perjury, penalty of perjury, to give a judge to incriminate my client. And this isn't the only time that's going to happen. I can sit up here for 8 hours and go through every single piece of evidence. My feeling is that it might make more sense for us to do it on the witness stand, and that is what we plan doing here. Now, they're going to talk about where he submitted to the interviews. Remember, he took them immediately to the warehouse and showed them the boat. Okay, he didn't hide the boat. He told them that he had the boat. For some reason, they just gloss over that. He allowed them to search the warehouse. He allowed them to search the house. He sat down and he went driving around with Braccini. That would leave his book in one spot, his keys in another, while Scott wants to go look for Laci, and still he was cooperative up until the time that the search warrants are executed in his house. They come back on the 26th, and he lets them have free reign of the house. They basically kick him out of the house, and he goes outside. They tell him to wait out there. He goes with Braccini. They come back on the 26th. They search the house. They search the warehouse again. You have heard a lot about the searches. The searches produced, I can't even think of how many bags of evidence, probably 100 bags of evidence out of that house, probably 60 bags of evidence out of that house, out of that warehouse. And all of these things that were contained inside, the clothing, the boat, the pliers, everything else. And literally, what I'm holding in my hand are the Department of Justice's test reports for all of those searches, everything. There it is. They went through, they tested everything. Do you want to know something? What they got out of all those tests? Zip. Nothing. Nada. Not a thing. It's one of the reasons that you didn't hear yesterday any scientific evidence. They would have you believe that the evidence will show that my client, Scott Peterson, supposedly killed Laci. Well, where? Certainly there was no evidence in the house. The search... Mr. Garagos, you are getting into argument in my opinion. The search on the 26th was not just conducted by the Modesto PD. The search on the 26th, believe it or not, they were accompanied. Modesto PD was accompanied by the FBI. The FBI brought in their crack team of forensic people to search that house. They illuminated that house. They luminoled that house. They took into possession everything in that house that had anything, any conceivable relevance. They went through that house with texts from the Modesto PD, from the FBI. They looked through everything. They looked for blood spatter. They looked for any kind of excretions that would be consistent with her death occurring in that house. And they found, Department of Justice found zip, nothing, not one thing. They went to the warehouse. In the warehouse, they seized, oh, by the way, let me go back to the house. You know, the top and the boat cover that you saw yesterday, they were tested. Zip, nada, nothing, no blood, none of Lacey's hair, none of Lacey's excrements, nothing. It was absolutely nothing on any item. So they went to the warehouse where they found the boat. They retested the boat again just within the last month, and guess what they came up with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing that points towards Scott Peterson. Not one scintilla of evidence in that boat. They didn't find any blood. They found fish emulsion. They found some hairs and fibers that weren't his. They found some other things that had nothing to do with Lacey or Scott, but they found nothing to show that Lacey was in that boat, save one hair on a pliers. Supposedly on the 26th, when Bracini finds it, we'll talk about that, they go on a literally mission to test virtually everything they can think of. And they test tops, they test clothes, they test socks, they test every duct tape, and they find absolutely nothing. Not one thing that links Scott Peterson to Lacey's death. And the reason is because there is no link. Now, the next thing that we spend lots of time on yesterday is we went to the marina 5 times. Okay, remember that the 5 times that he came back on various days. Now, I'm going to show you in a second on the board. Give Mr. Nagilin a chance to catch up that he had gone. And we'll see specifically to the arena on each of these occasions because he was told or read that they were searching for Lacey. Okay, every single time. We will show you that. On here, the first visit, January 5th of 2003. What was the link to Mr. Nagilin? Do you have that over there? January shows my eyes, 3rd article, divers searching the water near the Berkeley Marina. What does he do? He goes up to the marina. He's also got the double motive. He's like to find the 2 witnesses who saw him put the boat in the water. So that's one of the reasons he drives around looking through the parking lots and everything else. There's nothing sinister about it. He's driving around to see if he can find the 2 workers who saw him put the boat in the water. And he's got a pretty good reason to, because the Modesto B has just put out that divers are searching the waters. Goes back to the 2nd day. Immediately after a Modesto B article that says dogs and divers go to water in San Francisco Bay. He goes back up there again, does the exact same thing to see if they are out there searching and to see if he can find the witnesses. Now, you got March, I think it's 9th. Searchers return and use underwater camera equipment to hunt for clues. That's the 3rd visit to the bay. The same day that the Modesto B, that's the paper that everybody reads, or they would like to think everybody reads in Modesto. And that's what the banner headline was. And that's the reason he went. Now the prosecution will say, well, this was a 4th and 5th visit. What were those? The suggestion was yesterday that he went up there, some kind of return to the scene of the crime. What they don't tell you, what the evidence is going to show you, is that Detective Grogan, who was sitting right there in the end, he called him up on the 26th that morning, and he said, she's in the bay. We're going to find her. He goes to the bay to see he's telling the truth in response to Grogan's phone call. And he goes back the following day because Grogan has told him this. He's the one who told him to call. If you don't, you said he didn't care. Objection. That's all argument. Argument sustained. Okay. Now, Scott was apathetic about his wife's disappearance. We have all heard that. Fact of the matter is, everybody who knows him would tell you that he was anything but apathetic. He was very emotional behind closed doors. Now, I want to talk to you about that for a second because there has been a lot of testimony about a lot of indications that they're going to call witnesses about how he acted. This is not somebody who wears his emotions on his sleeve. And you're going to hear from his father, who's sitting over there, who's an ex-Navy type, I think. And that's one of the things that they drilled into him. You know, men don't cry. Men don't show their emotion. That kind of mantra. This was the way he was raised. He was not somebody who would go out and wear his emotions on his sleeve. The fact of the matter is that there are witnesses who will tell you that he was so upset that it moved them to action. I'll give you a better example. Remember yesterday they talked about Amy Krigbaum, who is the woman across the street, who Scott was to say, did Lacey was not there. This didn't have any kind of a, other than a hi, how are you, neighbor relationship. But Amy Krigbaum will tell you that when she gets on the witness stand, she could sense that Scott was so upset that she left. She and her partner's Christmas Eve dinner, which she was in the middle of preparing or eating, I forget which, to go out and search because she felt she had to do something. She recognized immediately how upset he was. Susan Medina, who's across the street, will tell you about the fact that he would just break down and cry. There are countless witnesses will tell you that. In fact, Sharon Rocha will tell you early on when she believed fervently that Scott's innocence. One of the reasons she didn't push him to do more TV was because he was so emotional. That was clearly what the case was. So he was anything but unemotional. Now, this idea that he's apathetic about his wife's disappearance. Understand what Scott's life had become. You have to put this into context because it's very difficult to understand. Within a few days, I think depiction number 4 is the one I want. Within a few days, this story had reached that proportions. This is the front of the house on the day the search warrant is executed, okay? Your wife, pregnant wife, is gone, and this is your house as the police are searching it. Looks like the Space Challenger or something has just crashed, and the scene out there is a mob scene. There were reporters, there were satellite trucks, blocked off the entire neighborhood. People were completely surrounding the area. He's trying his best to get the focus on finding Lacey. Clearly by that time, the whole focus is on Scott. They are executing search warrants. Most people understand that when you execute a search warrant, that means the police suspect that you had something to do with it, and so he's trying to deal with that. This is also a guy, understand, kind of private prior to this happening, who was just making good money working for Trade Corp. I think the last tax return he filed the previous year, $66,000, as a representative for this European company that he was trying to break into the market. He and Lacey were excited about having the kid. They had just purchased this country club membership, and that was this December. This idea that somehow there's a timeline he's going to chuck his whole life, I think, is belied by the evidence of the fact that they spent quite a bit of money to buy this country club membership, in the excess of $20,000 to buy the country club membership. Was excited about that. He purchased this boat, which, by the by, they say he didn't tell anybody else. There is a friend who knew about the boat. One of the reasons they didn't tell Ron is they specifically were going to tell Ron on Christmas morning because Ron was an avid fisherman. And this idea that Lacey didn't know about the boat, they know better than that. They know that there's a witness that will tell you that Lacey was at the warehouse on December 20th. She was there at the warehouse on December 20th, had seen the boat, was in the boat, and then went from the location because she couldn't. Mr. DeStasso accurately at one point yesterday indicated that you couldn't get to the bathroom in the back of the warehouse because it's stacked up with the fertilizer. She was worried about getting anywhere near that liquid fertilizer, so she went next door to use the bathroom in one of the other warehouses, and a woman there saw her and talked to her, and they know that. They know that she was there, that she saw the boat. She didn't tell her mom about the boat. She didn't tell her stepfather about the boat, and she had talked to her mom after she had been to that warehouse, never mentioned a word about it. And I'll also tell you that they had made a large purchase of furniture. Didn't go around bragging about that either. That's the way Laci was. Now the idea that Scott didn't do anything, and I think there is specific number 5, I believe, number of things that Scott did in the search for Laci. I want you to see. He immediately began to go down to La Loma Park. That's the park down below. You have to picture this street. As you walk out, you make a left, you go down a trail, and that is right there to the park. It's a large park. Unfortunately, it's populated with transients and parolees and people who have just been on the parole train, so to speak, who get down there and hang out down there. In fact, you will also hear that Laci would constantly confront the transients about their activity around there. The woman was a spitfire. If she didn't like what somebody was doing, she was in their face. There was a neighbor down the street who saw her break up 2 women fighting in the middle of the street. There is a Supreme Court judge who lives around the corner who will tell you that he's told Laci, stay away from the transients. It's not safe for you. But she would have none of it. She was active in neighborhood watch. In fact, with a little kind of trail down in the park, she was trying to have that blocked off as part of her neighborhood watch project so that the transients would not come marching down the street, so to speak. Now, Scott immediately went down there. He also started going door to door on Christmas Eve until the police stopped him. You'll remember the police stopped him because they wanted to go over to the warehouse. In addition to that, on Christmas morning, he went around door to door and he was posting flyers. Now, the flyers he posted were the same ones that you saw were on his car still on the day he was arrested. These ones, the original ones, had a lesser amount of reward, and he was, in fact, on that night that Brochini was driving him around Modesto area, going from the warehouse to the house and then back to the police department. One of the stops they made, or one of the places that Scott eventually went to, is a place called Dittos, which is a copy service in Modesto, so he could have the flyers made, so he could post the flyers. Now, in addition to that, as I indicated before, he did not hesitate to let police search and took police through the warehouse. He drove all over Northern California. One of the things you will see, and actually to some degree, that they had a GPS tracker on him. The GPS tracker was one of these devices that they put on the car, and it will tell you there's a lot of errors with the things, but to some degree you can map out exactly where somebody is, and you will see all the different places he was going, posting flyers every time he got a tip or anything else. Then there was also, he organized search teams. He tried to pursue the search. There was a volunteer center. This is the volunteer center. Eventually came to be a place called the Red Lion Hotel. And every morning he would go at 7 o'clock. Not every, but almost every morning. He would open the volunteer center for her. He did numerous interviews with the Modesto PD, answering their questions. He called the police frequently to pass along tips, repeatedly called to ask about the status of searches, and as I indicated, he hand-delivered hundreds of posters to police stations, fire stations throughout California. He also he and a friend prepared flyers for birthing centers, midwives to be distributed. He got another friend, Mike Richardson, searched a prenatal facility around the area. Their feeling is that maybe somebody's got her, and as the baby is developing, then maybe they're going to take her to the prenatal clinic or something. So they were trying to get that information out as well. He did the television interview with Diane Sawyer that you saw yesterday. His mom hired a renowned psychic that they were desperate to find things out from what was going on. He was presented with a waiver form, to get those records you saw yesterday that were up on the screen that had Laci's OBGYN records. He signed a waiver saying, go get them. Be my guest. I want you to find them. Did whatever he could to help out. He worked for several weeks to organize a search for Laci Day, established a 1-800-LACI info line for people who didn't want to contact the police. Remember the police hotline. If you called up there, you were going to talk to a police officer. Part of the thought is if it's a transient, a parolee, or someone in the park who had done this, who was involved in this, they may not want to talk to the police. So the thought was, let's set up a separate timeline that specifically doesn't have a connection to the police. And if they phone in, they may feel you may get some better information. He met with the mayor, the chief of police, numerous other politicians, visited clear across, went to locations all over Northern California for information on Laci along those lines. He also, I think it's number 7. And those things, remember, we heard about the visits to the Berkeley Marina, but when you see the GPS records, the witnesses will tell you that he also went to Pittsburgh Marina on the Delta, and the Oakdale Manteca. He was all over Modesto. He went to San Luis O'Neill Reservoir, right next to the reservoir. The reason he got there is they got a tip. Or if they were searching in any of these areas, he would go. That's why he would make these trips. So instead of just seeing this story here, he went to the Berkeley Marina. And if that's suspicious, understand it in its context. He was going anywhere that he thought he could find or promulgate a search for Laci. Now, the pickup near the border. I'll show you that. Number 22. Okay, picked up near the border. He's picked up at Torrey Pines, okay? Golf course, which is, as you can see, is as far from Mexico as he is from San Jose, okay? The idea that he somehow, his change of appearance, so that he's fleeing, going to be the first guy ever that fled into Mexico by way of Canada. The position of the car was heading north. There was no reason in the world for him to flee. Understand as well that what he had recently done, he had recently gone to Mexico for a work job in connection with working there and returned. The police had tried to get the Trade Corp, which is his employer, to not allow him to take the trip. He's been to Mexico and back. He had flown there and back. His brother's ID. They make much of the fact that he had his brother's ID. The police know what the story is on that. They went down and checked. They were told that he was meeting his family there. His dad is an avid golfer. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute here and take just a little break here. Okay, so what's the clown? Oh. So what's going on in the chat? Hello, Jeanette. Hi, Christine. You're on your couch, so you can hear everything outside even more. What's going on, Christine? Someone's playing loud music? Oh. Hi, Kate, for a day. How are you? Thanks for coming in. Let's see. Oh, go call your mom. Go ahead, Jeanette. So let's see. Trying to see what you guys are saying in the chat. It would be pure entertainment watching the two of them, though. Who? The two of who? I missed that, Shana. Oh, Nancy Grace versus Garagos in court. Yes, right. You're drifting to sleep, Shana? Oh, you're welcome, Shana. Okay, I think I might end it here because there are some headlines that I'd like to talk about tonight. So I'm going to quickly, just while there are some big cases. There's the Playboy bunny that took an Alfred plea for the psychiatrist who was, I think it was 72. And she's one of 3 people that is accused of killing. It's kind of, there's some cases. So I'm going to go, we're going to stop here on this now. We'll continue, like I said, we'll continue a little bit, nearly every day. We'll see how it goes, okay? But I'm going just to set up headlines just so we can do that. And and then we might we have a 16-year-old girl that's missing too, so okay. All right, let me just start this. But thanks for coming in on the Scott Peterson stuff. Let's see when we're going to do this. This is going to go at 2:40. Okay, so that'll be in 2 minutes. We'll let that go. And tomorrow we should be having an auction. I believe we may start it a little earlier than 9. Look, remember how we used to start them in the afternoon? I don't know. We may test that out. I have to see what the heck is going on and what's going to be like. I know. We'll see. Let me go back to the chat because I can't see the chat. There you are. And I have to go. Wait, this is not the right chat. Where's my chat? Seem to have lost my live chat. That's not it. Is that it? There it is. Okay. Is this it? Yeah. So yeah, thanks for coming in. And if you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Share it out there, whatever. But we're going to go on to the headlines. So I'm going to end this. God bless. Prayers for all that need them in the community. Prayers for all of you guys. And I'll see you around. Love you guys. Okay. Let's see. And